Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to AWOL Wednesday. I think we're in week 9 or something like that. I am joined by a very special, not really a guest, but first time commentator on AWOL. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Hi, so I go by Rinku or ItsRinku in Altered. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it would be at WatchWolf92, which is a moniker I've used for most other things, but I'll go by Rinku here. So yeah, I've participated a lot in these events. They're definitely how I got started. But I guess my newest claim to fame is that I won Dallas, and I'm the first non-French person qualified for Altered World. So I figured I could try shifting into a more commentary sort of role. In the meantime, now that the top prize in the WCQ does, it's kind of lost upon me now. So yeah, I'm really excited to join Cole in the booth today.
Wonderful. So usually we don't pick table one right off the bat,
Well, we
but I think
gotta.
yeah, I think in this situation we have to pick table one because we have Symbiosis against Body by Dave. I'm getting loaded into the game now. Once the art is loaded, we'll go over there. But how does it feel to no longer have the pressure of having to attend any other qualifier if you don't want to?
Yeah. Well, so I guess relief and thankful. Like I feel very thankful. I would never convince myself that I'm the favorite in any event. And even if you are, it can't be that by that much due to just natural variances in the games and different preparation styles of different people. So I didn't think it was likely that I would do well in Dallas, but and especially coming eighth on breakers by 0.34%, either resistance or tiebreaker, depending on your background. So that's definitely, I just feel thankful more than anything because even coming into this season, more likely than not, I was not going to qualify for Worlds. So I'm just very happy to exist in this timeline.
Always, always so humble. You crushed the top cut from every angle that I saw. Maybe a couple moments where it was, a little harder fought than others, but we are in the game now. The stream can see the game,
Mhm.
and Symbiosis is playing Traced. I don't believe that's what he was playing at Dallas. Was he on Traced?
Right. So Symbiosis was my top four opponent, and they're known for playing Lindaway actually. Branching out in a different direction, but they played super solid the whole tournament. And I watched the replays of my match with Symbiosis in the top four of Dallas, and it got towards the end of game two, and I was like, I don't understand how I won this game. I just know the outcome. And then I saw it, I'm like, whoa, that was so wild. So, yeah, so definitely a top player. But Body by Dave also, running the Kesha, and I feel like to run a Kesha is, a conscious choice that you're making. But in the era of like post Afanis, it really opens up the avenue. So Linda Way is kind of its own thing. Like it's like a different slant, and you have this package of sacrifice cards. But now both Afanis and Akesha can kind of have a little bit more flexibility or customizability in what they can do. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I for one would be super happy to see Akesha played in a normal, traditional sense instead of only being played to be very incredibly annoying. I
Mhm.
do think the hero ability can be used very interesting, and from doing like hundreds of learn to plays, I think it's also one that newer players don't quite understand. Either they'll never use it or they'll use it right off the bat, but it's a little more dynamic than that. But Traced also super great. I wonder if Symbiosis is testing out some other things, maybe looking to participate in another qualifier. I didn't get to talk to him very much. I was at the caster table a lot, and we just heard about this really good Lindaway. And
Mhm.
then when he finally showed up on stream, I was like, "Oh, wait, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Symbiosis." Like, no one else knew who his name was until, that match, so pretty cool.
Yeah, so back on, like, the Akesha point, one thing I kind of realized when I started learning Altered is that you have things like Sigismar and Fen that kind of try to explain to you how good a hero power should be. So Fen is saying, "Hey, my hero power is worth half a card. You got a card in the reserve," and then Sigismar says you get a 1/1/1 every turn. So roughly, those should be if we assume that the factions didn't actually have different identity, which obviously they do. Like naturally, if you're playing Sigismar, then you're playing Ortis and all that stuff, and you have a different toolkit. But if we just take it at face value on a hero level, those two set the precedent. So sure, like Hojo gets every other turn, but it's like a bigger token and stuff. So we're claiming that a 2/2/2 every other turn is roughly the same as a 1/1/1 every turn, which obviously has been debated for a while. So the reason why I bring this up right now, though, is because specifically Akesha, you get an after you every other turn. So A, it's not an after you every turn, which implies that after Ewing, every turn would be better than half a card. So then if you can after you every other turn, that has to be better than a whole card, which is probably, in some cases, maybe a difficult ask, and maybe why we haven't seen as much Akesha, because when you compare it to, say, Aphanis was multiple boosts, effectively multiple 1/1/1s, literally every turn. But now that it's a little bit, I guess, tamer or less turbo on the Aphanis side, it really gives, Akesha more of a time to shine. But I think one of the key cards in Akesha is a card like Katagira Alchemist, where what you can kind of do is if you have an Alchemist that you're playing from hand and it's lining up with something on their side that is smaller, by being able to after you and play it into that smaller thing, you're eating kind of that half a card. So your stats actually have to line up in a certain way. And we actually see that from the Belasenka here. The Belasenka is perfectly lining up with where Symbiosis is trying to go on the hero side. So that is saying this half a card has eaten your half of a card, which is very interesting.
I love just in the stream chat, Body by Dave asking, their opponent if Haven works with Bug Out Bag.
Mhm.
Also kind of just a side point, but very often everyone is super friendly in altered tournaments. In the chat, very rarely do you see people flaming or getting salty, and you see moments like this. From what I saw, the vibe was basically the same in person. But
Yeah.
did anyone scold you, threaten to fight you in the parking lot or anything?
Yeah, I mean, besides the people that tried taking my trophy, no, I'm just kidding. No, it was definitely a really good vibe. I feel like there's, of course, a few stray people on, specifically on ladder, that seem to rage a little bit more than others in altered. But if you're choosing to play altered long term and the community's so like close knit, there's no reason to kind of tarnish your name or taint a victory that the opponent deserved. So it's just not great all around to have those negative vibes. But yeah, in the tournament, people are super friendly. People were open to talking about like different plays that they were making. I saw like even in some cases a little bit more generous like takebacks that were just agreed upon by the players. Like, oh no, like I forgot you had that support ability. Can I please play it on the other side, even though I locked it in? And technically, we're playing for stakes. If they said no, like I started making a decision, then sure, that would have been the ruling. But no, people wanted like the appropriate outcome. Even at the end of my game against Symbiosis, we didn't have like mics that were connected to us. But well, first, one thing that was really fun was every time there's like a complicated decision that seemed kind of stressful, I would just start chanting "Maw," and then he would be like, "No, no, not yet." And then when he would start like screaming "Maw," and then we just like are literally just saying "Maw" every turn, which was really fun. But at the end of game three, he's just like, "This one's really tough. I don't think I have a way out of it." And I'm like, "If it's over, just flip over your card. We can figure this out together. Like, you're either gonna play your last card or not. Like, there's nothing to like hold." And he flipped it over, and I'm like, I actually did the math on this one. This is why I did this. You actually can't win if you didn't have another like character here. So the vibe was, obviously very competitive, but one that is indicative of a community that wants to see this game grow.
Yeah, that is very good, very well said. And here in this game, something very interesting happened. We saw the Pomola support
Mhm.
ability be used straight into the Akesha. One of the kind of questions I was going to pose is, in my eyes, this type of Ysmir deck is perfectly suited to counter Traced because of interactions like that.
Mhm.
And the Bella Senka. I like to say the only time I've ever sorry, I'm still kind of sick. Ever
You're good.
beat Elio was Exhaustophonus versus Traced. So what do you think the Akesha has to continue to do here? And do you think Trace is still just too good, able to overcome it, or is this a pretty good counter?
Yeah, so one thing that's very difficult is that um so kind of once again just analyzing hero powers. Once Trace is online, you're getting effectively half a card every turn. So because you're drawing a card and putting one into reserve, but slightly better than that. You get to choose what's put into reserve. And you're usually putting into reserve cards like Axiom Salvager, Dr. Frankenstein's probably one of the best ones, or even this unique that we see on screen that you have so wonderfully highlighted earlier. So it's one that when you play from reserve, it's massive. So that pretty much requires a removal spell because on a per rate basis, you're not going to play a character that can keep up with that. You have to play a removal spell. So I think the real problem that Kesh is going to run into here is there's an adage in card games that there aren't wrong threats, only wrong answers. Akesh has a deck of answers, and we have not seen a lot of card draw or card selection other than maybe the Spycraft. So while Trace is able to just present a pile of stats that will apply an amount of pressure that even the after you of Akesha probably doesn't matter for the most part. So, I don't want to call it too early. We're still only in day three, but it's going to be pretty difficult to come back from this sort of velocity deficit. So, by velocity, I mean the rate at which cards are seen in the deck. So some people have a slightly hyperbolic opinion on how Altered works in saying that if you draw more uniques, you win. But with that sort of philosophy, if you wanted to, then Trace is just good at seeing more of its uniques sooner than its opponent or more on average. So we might see those differences also show where we've actually now seen Symbiosis play two uniques. So this Gian was also played. It's slightly different where it's from hand. You get a boost, but it's one for each player's reserve, so it can be bigger than the Haven Bouncer that we saw from reserve.
Yeah, I think these uniques are super interesting. The GN was used for the support ability mainly, but even this Haven Bouncer is super low cost, and the abilities are very interesting. While you were kind of talking about breaking things down to card advantage, the game was kind of fulfilling everything you were saying by
Hmm.
Traced just cycling through all of these cards while Akesha still has one in hand. I wonder if a good Akesha build going into, this new patch would be something involving Silas, involving some card draw. I think there's definitely a lot of space to
Mhm.
figure out an Akesha deck. I just don't think many people have spent their time on it.
Yeah, so one place where Akasha could potentially find a place, and we don't know if Body by Dave is playing this, but the Nylum can still help. So we saw Nylum kind of be the predominant Aponis build if it wasn't the resupply unique version. And that's just because you could turn your single card into, oh, I play this Rhyme Frost, or I exhaust with my Pamela, and now I get this 2/2/2. So kind of giving the hero power, like Akesha is a hero power that's not innately producing a card advantage like the ones that I listed earlier. It's one that you need to provide an engine around it that allows you to do things. So kind of like what you were saying, where it has some newer players. will use Akesha's ability too early, too late, what have you. Um, really, the cadence you would want is, oh, there is something important. I exhaust it. Whoa, now I don't know what you're gonna do. Let me know after you. Kind of a midturn after you tends to be where you want to focus. There's some early ones that matter too, but how about we read off this unique?
Yeah, so this is an Athena, 4 from hand, 3 from reserve, 3/4/4. And if you control 2 or more landmarks when played from reserve, it loses fleeting. And then when I go to reserve from the expedition zone, you may sacrifice a permanent. If you do, you may discard target permanent. Dave has 5 mana, which is kind of perfect mana range to play Anilum, but now might not want to consider doing that. But having this and having the bug out bag that we saw earlier and some of these other permanents is a really good combo. I think credit to Symbiosis with having a very good Lindaway deck, now coming out with a interesting traced deck built around this Athena and these other uniques that get boosts off people's reserves. Very, very cool build so far.
Yeah, so I do like this Belisenko play from the Akesha because one thing that you want to in my eyes there's two types of alter decks. There's alter decks that are effectively engine decks. They actually don't care about the board. It's almost viewed as a timeline. So it's Sadi and Golrang, I think, are and kind of Waru are like the marquee. Like I don't actually care about the tumult other than it's a timeline of the game. Like if I don't do something by a certain time, you will win. But I'm trying to build this massive engine. But outside of those, everything else cares about the tumult. So I call those tumult decks. So the tumult decks, you need to kind of analyze what regions are they weak in. And predominantly, Axiom is usually weak in the forest stat. So that mono forest tile that they're on right now on the companion side is actually where you would look to kind of trap them. And this is actually the best sort of outcome for our Akesha, where you had a 50-50 of moving into the tile that had another 4 stat in it. So what you can do is you can I call it back tapping. I don't know if that's like actually a thing in basketball. I watched Kuriko's basketball once. Sounded like it was. But pretty much what you can do is you can try to go forward while stopping them from behind. So this is at least how I think about when I play like Lyra and Kojo, things with like Mighty Jins or Hathor and stuff, is just how can I like back tap them as in like I go forward and I stop you and where the mono terrain is kind of dictates the pace of that. So I actually like, even though in a purely card advantage sense, I think Trace is pretty far ahead. But actually, like Trace is going to be able to pretty easily get through that mountain stat. But I'm really worried about that forest stat. Luckily, things such as the Haven, or if they were to get another Helon cylinder, would probably help them. But this is a really strong after you to start the day because now what you can do is you can set up playing your starfish or whatever. Yeah, starfish from reserve, and then what you try to line up is I'm playing the starfish from the reserve. Now, if I have a removal spell, just a 1/1/1 is all I need. One is so much bigger than 0 in this game. I just need anything on that side if I'm going to play an off you go or something like that. So I really like that starting setup. But also from Symbiosis, the decision to only use one Haven was really savvy for exactly when something like Snap Cipher comes out. So especially when you only have 11 cards left in your deck, that's the time where you can kind of look at your mana. But big play here. What just happened?
Yeah, so I think we definitely have to give credit to Dave here. We talked a little bit about Symbiosis because we know them by name a little more, and they were in Dallas. But as you were kind of pointing out, playing very well around what advantage Trace has with resources. And this is, in my eyes, a perfect moment to play the Hunger. You're not worrying about Trace double moving very much. You're removing the Bastions, all of those resources that Trace just enabled with some of the resupply. When I was watching Traced and what they were hitting off of the resupplies, it was like, sheesh. and then the hunger just deletes that.
Yeah, the only comment or consideration I would have had here, and it would have been funny if it was exactly double Foundry mechanic, because that's the only thing that I wouldn't have punished. But I would have liked to see the hunger on the other side for exactly the reason I discussed earlier, trying to trap them on that 4 stat. But when I saw the first Foundry mechanic, I'm like, "Oh no," like, but then there's, the Keelan Elemental. Um, so this is precisely what the Kesha needed to get back into this, and it was really smart to line it up with the turn that you're going after you, kind of get that extra sort of you got the hero power usage out of the trace, which is definitely not free. And one thing that's really cool is if you are the Akesha, you can look at the discard pile, you can think what would have been mana'd, and you can actually anticipate what the last 10 cards are, and you can try formulate your game plan around that. But having this gigantic threat that you can now use, the Kesha's ahead here and can try to kind of threaten both sides. So we'll see how this goes, but it I could see it getting into the arena honestly because between the Keelan Elemental and like lining up with the hero side, it could be possible that the trace ability can like help get over the other side, and I could see this going to arena this turn.
Yeah, I think the really big win outside of that for Akesha is all of the havens are gone. They're
Mhm.
all in discard. Traced has a little bit of a ways to go before they're able to reshuffle the deck. Also, appreciate the chats. I think it might have been Arjun or Rin, but Traced beating you on Traced sounds more beneficial to me, so I'll just keep telling the story that way. Yeah, and now my brain did the thing where it lost energy, so I'll let Rinku keep talking again.
No, that's fine. Yes, so magical training kind of doing that pseudo after you that we've seen a lot. So once again, I could see this one just going to. So I think it just depends on if an off you go was found by the Akesha, and I don't believe we've seen one this game. It could be off you go or Evanescence. So we'll see if the Akesha can't wake up.
So Evanescence is a super good call out here. I started building, well, I returned to an Aphanis deck I had a long time ago. Now that he's nerfed, because now it's more exciting to play the hero for me. Um, do you think Evanescence or some of those other spells are really good for Akesha and people should just try Akesha more? Or do you think it has a home in Aphanis as well?
Yeah. I mean, Evanescence has kind of been like supporting like so Evanescence and like Off You Go kind of fill similar roles. I think it just depends on like how they play from the reserve, or like if you're playing Nylum, like that's a pretty big difference. But one thing Elio asked in the chat is, would you play around Boom here? You would play around Boom if you're given the fortune of being allowed to play around Boom. You're just not always able to. I really like playing the Hunger last year. I think that helped out with a lot of things.
Very cool game. Awesome to see a seemingly newer player just going off of ELO and not seeing their name as often take down someone who was in top cut in a world qualifier. And very interesting Akesha plays that weren't incredibly annoying and make me want to throw her off a cliff.
Yeah, we actually saw in the chat that Body by Dave said at the end that they were trying to play around Boom like very consciously. Also, Body by Dave having the Scrooge profile picture kind of implies that maybe they've played more paper and now have discovered Board Game Arena. Maybe it's an alt account. We don't know, but Body by Dave might be in Baltimore. So with that US flag. So we'll see how it goes. But what's the next match we're gonna go to, Cole?
I'm taking a look here at the progression. I think we're actually basically gonna wait for round two. and
Okay.
we'll be ready to dive into a match there fresh. What we can give the people what they want. Um, what do you see in that match that is good to point out to the people in chat here who are just enjoying feasting on your smart brain?
Uh, I wouldn't consider it smart. I've just made more mistakes than most people I know, which also leads to making like more good plays. But yeah, no, I definitely a person that has made a lot of mistakes. So, um, but no, is there something in particular, like about the previous match in particular, or just in general?
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing for the Trace deck, as I was mentioning, is the uniques seem a little different compared to what we're used to.
Mhm.
I think they were unfortunately matched against an Akesha deck where they weren't as strong.
Yeah.
But seeing cards that aren't Anansi but have the Anansi ability is
Mhm.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Um, do you think it was just a bad matchup, or what what do you think, I guess, of the
Yeah.
choice there?
Yeah. So It's it's a little bit harder to identify. So really there's about 2.5 different types of builds of Trace. So there is bug fix combo, there is the Anansi uniques that was used in Lil, I believe. And then the last one would just be whatever stuff I have access to that's not those two. So let's just focus on the two that we know about. But primarily where Trace is getting its advantage is through these like Dr. Frankensteins with like these resupply loops and just being able to after you while also progressing the board state. And then also, once again, the rate at which they're seeing cards, the velocity is so fast or so high that they can see their uniques more often, making bug fix a little bit more annoying. You don't need just one removal spell. You should count on them seeing all three uniques in a game. Um, so on the Akesha side, and part of the reason why even Kojo's, but especially Saudi and like on in the Bravos faction, have been playing the Hunger is for these Axiom matchups. The way you have to line it up against Trace is a little bit difficult. Like against Sierra, it's a little bit more cookie cutter. You're just playing it to clear these brass bug hives. But you need a little bit more setup when you're playing against Traced, because the last thing you want to do is you don't want to Hunger and then they just like one for one you, and then also like play out all these like landmarks that they were sandbagging. Like one thing you want to do if you can as a trace player is try to just hold one Haven in your hand. Like that cylinder is good enough because if you have cylinder plus Haven, then your Frankensteins already work. If you can hold the last Haven in your hand, it helps with rebuilding and makes it so that your Frankenstein's still turned on. So I wonder, Symbiosis can go back in that match and watch, and that might have been a key decision. Could I have held a Haven? Because not as many Akeshas are playing Bakus. We might see that change, but you're probably gonna have more than one card in hand anyways. But that rebuild potential is very important. You can even end up using your Traced to draw a card, put the Haven in reserve, and then play the Haven from reserve right away. So it can't be Spycraft, and you're up that full card instead of just that half card from playing the Haven out from hand. But I think another thing that's very difficult is actually anticipating what the catch is going to do. Like you could be like, okay, I'm going to play against these macro things, but for instance, it's actually really hard to play against the rare Katagiran Alchemist. It's really good if they after you and then just play a 4/4/4 for 3. It's actually like very difficult to figure out what terms you're playing on. I think one thing that also helped the Akesha win is the first hero side advance being in the Belasenka land, like the Frog Prince like sort of land, was very good for the Akesha, and then that one turn trapping in forest. So once again, these are both decks that are inherently, and really more because the Trace cares about it, the Akesha cares about it, but because they're both tumult decks that care about the tumult, I actually think that is where Trace lost a lot of percentages. I wonder if there's a way to execute it differently.
Beautifully said. Speaking of different types of decks, I think this matchup is a little different than our previous one. I have not been able to watch an LWW game for 2 weeks, which feels two
Yeah,
weeks
you're
too long.
deprived.
So, table 5, LWW versus Zypo.
Yeah.
But Another reason this matchup is interesting, since we're both coming off of Dallas, is Sigismar did not perform, and people in the Discord were like, "What, did Sigismar just not come? Did nobody play?"
Hmm.
And nope, he was there, just did not make it into Top Cut. I think there were maybe 1 or 2 that were on the bubble, and then there were definitely a couple more. So, is Sigismar dead, and should people stop playing him? I say, yeah, you should probably just stop playing him.
Yeah, so it seems like Sigismar has lost one of its better matchups. Afanis, like typically people would say Sigismar was good against Afanis. Kind of that 1-1-1 of stats pairs up very well with a I have one thing on both sides, here's a removal spell, therefore I advance one side. So really utilizing that 1-1-1 being half a card's worth of pressure. But I think really just Sigismar has to adapt differently. They just have to slightly change their plan. If more decks are going to care about just how my stats look, then that makes Monolith a lot better. And I think the thing that would actually be the best for Sigismar is if people can't decide whether or not they should be playing Grand Endeavor, Monolith, or nothing in the landmark slot, because then you can actually get so, for instance, Fen, um, if you want to keep a card like Requiem, which we ended up seeing here, if you want to keep that in your opening hand, it's actually very expensive if your opponent's not playing something that you can Requiem, like this Origis Carrier. One way you can kind of take advantage of playing Sigismar is actually metagame diversity within Sigismar. If everyone just agrees, like for the last format, like pre-Afanis change, most people were agreeing that you should play no landmarks. Well, now the terms and conditions are very clear, so it's actually very easy to attack Sigismar. But I think this is actually Sigismar's time to shine if the community at large can't decide on the landmarks.
Yeah, I think there could be a very good case for no landmark Sigismar to return, but we don't see it very often, at least from the games that I watch. I mean, in this one, there's an Ortis carrier, which Lyra isn't one of the more well known for all of its removal, but Requiem is right there and was able to get rid of it. But things like your license withdrawals, your hunger that we saw eating a bunch of landmarks last game. It seems to me like if I'm a person that never plays Ortis, so I know a lot about Ortis, I would say probably go the no landmark Sigismar.
Yeah, I think you make a lot of really good points. I think it depends on if you were to like list the top 4 decks you want to prepare for. It really depends on how many of them are playing cards like the Hunger or what have you. But in general, the Hunger can be very difficult to play against Ortis. I think if I were to start with Ortis, I would actually play 2 monoliths and no other landmarks because
Mm.
you still dodge Common Grems and you also dodge Requiem. So I think that could be a starting point, but then the question is like, are you not going to play Ortis Crier, and do you then have to play like rare engineers? Like, it's not as simple as slot this card into your deck. You actually have to change the structure around it.
Yeah, one of the things I started noticing last night and talked a little bit about on Ace is Crier was very popular the previous couple weeks,
Mhm.
but I saw a ton of Bumblebeat in
Yeah,
Ortis decks last night, and looking at each card, it kind of makes sense on paper. It's essentially the same as Crier, except for it gains anchored from reserve, and
yeah,
a lot of Ortis abilities like teamwork training or different uniques. They have conditions based on amount of characters. So it was very interesting to see because it wasn't just like one deck; it was multiple decks started playing the Bumblebee, which seemed a little newer to me.
yeah. I think Bumblebeat is pretty good. So both as Kojo, and I played Basira yesterday, coming in second in the ace. I actually only played against Sigismar yesterday, so uh, and
Yeah.
all of them had Bumblebee, which was kind of a rough beat because you Yeah, you just get to, like, fight over the side that you want to, and Bumblebee really does a good job of getting through or stopping people on terrains that they'd rather, like, try to advance on. So, for instance, you could play Bumblebee on the Buddha side. You can try to be like, "Oh, wait, this is a tough, like, spot for you. You're in, like, your mono forest when you don't want to be. I'll just keep you there by anchoring." I will say that there are times where people can get a little bit too greedy with the Bumblebee, where they like need it to be a 3-3-3, and then like it gets sabotaged. So I think there needs to be some exploration there. But um, focusing on this game in particular, though, we saw a pretty cool Kokoba. Um, so kind of was really low on resources, but that Kokoba is allowing the Sigismar to kind of recoup some cards, but being behind on the Tumult is going to be a little bit tough against that Martingale unique.
Yeah, so the Kokoba kind of goes directly in line with what I was mentioning on amount of characters in Ortis. Drawing 2 cards is super strong, but this Martingale, as you mentioned, does trigger off of each player's reserve. I think that was a very greedy play from El here, but he knows what he's doing. So I'm very interested in why the ink caster was used to have a free magical training when the Jack Frost was sitting right there.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing too, actually. So to use the Inkcaster there means that you're worried about that getting sabotaged or exhausted. So I think it could be a line where you don't want your Inkcaster to be exhausted by a Jack from play and then a Jack from hand. Yeah. Then like exhausting the Martingale. But I really like this line from our Sega Smart player where you actually lose that reserve ability. So the contortionist now doesn't just get to sit there for free. So it's tough. Like are you half playing around Jack Frost? Are you fully playing around it? Like maybe this is a good enough consolation prize for the Sigismar to just effectively remove another card in the reserve by exhausting that contortionist. But obviously, this is something that LWE factored in and kind of just valuing like I want this mana more than potentially keeping my contortionist around.
Yeah, I think
So
the
yeah,
other really big worry about playing something out like the Martingale is the fact that license withdrawal exists. Maybe the Magping was more of a bait to see like Magping is going to be boosted. There we go.
yeah.
So, like I said, Elwiwi knows what he's doing. I was just trying to figure out what he was doing because I am not in his brain.
Yeah, so Daedalus is actually something I haven't seen from these sort of Fen builds, but LWE, packs a punch with a lot of different types of varieties of cards that they're willing to play, especially in the rare slot. And the Daedalus ends up lining up just perfectly on this board, allowing them to still 1-for-1 this day. That otherwise would have looked a little bit hairy. Like it would have been hard to stop both mountain and water for that side. But getting past the tough terrain with that data list that they chose to play, and Forest Mountain is one of Fenn's best, areas of attacking.
Yeah, I think that's one area that we maybe don't talk about enough, at least on the casts I've been on. The specific strengths in each element or each terrain, whatever you
Mhm.
want to call them. So it's very good to hear you break it down and kind of I'm sure a lot of high level players are thinking about it, but for other players that may not know each deck by that, it's very beneficial for a lot of people watching the stream to
Mhm.
hear that breakdown.
Yeah, I will say, I guess the game's pretty new, but I still consider myself a novice in a lot of ways, and the like if you've seen me like think on stream or like play on Board Game Arena, I'm not actually planning out the turn because that doesn't take that much effort to just like enumerate all the things I can do and they can do. I'm actually usually just thinking about how the next turn or two's terrains are lining up. Like, am I gonna be trapped there? Am I trying to trap them? Am I trying to, like, back tip them in this, like, other location or whatever? Like, I'm just trying to think about the tumult. Like, I'm not actually trying to think, "Oh, I have 4 mana, what am I gonna do with 4 mana?" I'm just thinking, like, "Where do I even wanna be on this track?"
Yeah, I think Freeloader pointed out the matchup very well. Um, Odd how Lyra needs a bit of help, but simultaneously is such a scary faction. I've said it for so long that I don't know why there aren't more Fen players, and that's actually become even more true the last month. The amount of Fen we've had is just like taken a nosedive. I'm not sure if that's in reaction to the amount of removal, hunger, uh, or what. But I think the Fen deck can just be so versatile and answer so many questions. And LWE kind of proves that every week by changing the deck every week.
Yeah, I think so, I would say the heroes that I've enjoyed the most are Kojo, Fen, Navenka, and Lindaway. So I have played like a reasonable amount of Fen, and I remember that there were just like a few situations where I would play the deck, and then I would just get like double advanced by like Ortis or like either Sigismar or Kojo or something like that, just because their hero powers like giving them that on the first day. And then I found that like in some spots of like obviously it might be deck construction error, but like if things just didn't break a certain way, I was just like already out of the game. What table number are you at?
I'm at the table number that has Revert Afanis, table 14, and I'm very sad I clicked into this team or this table and let stream see it because as much
Oh
as
wow,
I was
it's your
happy,
favorite.
yeah,
Um,
as much as I was happy to see a different Akesha, now we're going into this. I can't help but notice
Great,
that
now I can talk all I want.
yeah, this
Um,
person is also from Switzerland, has a reference to Revert Waru, a fan favorite account name. Yeah, I'm sure we might know this person, and shame on them and their family.
yeah. Um, anyhow, so um, but yeah, so I think the problem with Fen isn't actually a Fen problem. I think it's a player problem. The margin for error is so much smaller. Like all of your mistakes are very exacerbated and snowball against you. The catch-up mechanics aren't just your hero power, it's how you're utilizing everything. But more importantly, I think deck construction error hurts even more in Fen in particular because you're seeing about those 3 cards in a turn. Technically, you can look at the mana orbs you're getting and conditionally update what's left in your deck. So you're quote seeing 3 cards a turn, even though it ends up only being 2. Um, like that you can actually play with. So I think overall, just the margins are a lot harder for Fen, and you get punished for doing like things wrong. Whereas most other heroes, if you do things a little bit wrong, it's not that bad for you.
Yeah, watching this game play out, this is exactly the setup on why I began to hate Akesha. I feel like Muna is in a very bad place to answer a deck like this, and I think we're kind of seeing that right now.
We can go
So
somewhere else if you want.
the main question while we're here, and we have you and people in the chat who definitely one of them is playing this deck right now and knows about it, is how do you answer this deck? Is there a good way? Is Muna really just absolutely downsided against it? Because I mean, look at this board for Muna, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so it depends on the build, but one thing like it's hard if they have the hunger. But one thing I've seen, one play pattern I've seen is that people will play the the Ysmir like Bastion on 8 and then try to activate it for Celebration Day. But if you're able to save a removal spell for that, then they just spent 8 and then didn't get to use it. I think that's like a pivotal point. But yeah, really you just gotta be like full aggression and try to like So I think one problem with these quote hostage decks that people have talked about in this game is that like the game has effectively been over for a while, and we just don't have to be here if both people aren't choosing to do it, right? So it's like, okay, most of the time the game ends by having both of the companion and the hero meet. But this game was already decided much earlier, and we just happen to still be here for move 171 in Board Game Arena.
Yeah, and I think the comment from Runefolk saying at this point it's over confirms that this is Runefolk because it is his signature style, and he always makes that comment when getting to about this area of the game. There have been a time or two where he actually got semi frustrated with a certain matchup, and now I need to search through all the logs and
Oh,
see
he
what it was that did that and just play that.
well, it's playing an Aja. If you just play one Aja, and if they're too slow, you can get them to mana their deck.
All right, so I'm bringing my Tasia deck that will help us both ramp half our deck, and I'll just play that into Revert of Faunus.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
So this is the danger of at times picking a table that is lower on completion. We
We can
can
go somewhere else.
skip to table 8 has 70%. This is Volothamp against Silbilly. Here we go. A Kojo with a Scholar's Vault.
Oh, wow. Oh, it
But
looks like we got the GGs.
we got the GGs.
Oh, but they had such cool uniques. Oh, well, maybe next time.
So I think we're at the point where the round is about to end as soon as Revert of Faunus lets the round end.
No, 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 it's the opponent. So that's why I think hostage is a misnomer. Like the opponent has to leave and is choosing not to. Really, the Tasia is hostaging us, not the Akash.
I disagree. I will not accept that. I will stay 55 minutes. I'll make you quit before you make me quit.
Yeah, I mean, eye for an eye, Cole. Makes the whole world blind. Like, yes,
uh,
you're right, the Akasha caused the situation to happen, but the game is over. It's just not over to the point that everyone else can move on with their life. So
yeah, there is another table. It's another Kojo versus Siggy. They might have one more day in it. It's table
well,
11.
yeah, I'll go there. Oh, Arthur's really good. I played against him
Yes.
yesterday in the top 4,
Yeah. Arthur's been on Sigismar for a long time, pretty
like, actually
consistently.
forever. Yeah. So, let's see, they're using their Frog Prince unique, which, allows them to draw a card with an arrow, which is pretty sweet. And then, let's see, the Kojo has a pretty reasonable Ozma that draws 1 card, but doesn't have a tough condition. On the board, yeah, so the terrains are kind of interesting here. Um, Buddha's, like, trying to hold down the fort in the mountain, which won't do that good of a job, and the Mighty Jin, unfortunately, the hole is allowing, the hero side of the Sigismar to go through.
I really like this Aegis Templar card. I think it's one of the coolest new cards. Um, I am always very interested when I see a Ghoul not using the rare. Um,
Wait, I think
wh-
the common one's better in Gold. Like, I think your rare spots need to be for other things.
yeah, so that's what I'm always wondering since I don't play Ortis. What rare slots are kind of, more important than the amount of stats the rare Templar. I mean, I know the scout costs one more.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, I guess it depends on as well what kind of build you're making. All both players have used all their resources, but there's one specific. Oh no, they're
Yeah.
calling GG because the Kojo's too far away.
Yep.
That's what it was. Dang, if there was just 3 more forests.
Yeah, yeah, they also had 10 in water, I think, but yeah, so well, when you look at Gold a lot of the rares are already spoken for. I forget if it's like 12 or 13 rares are spoken for. So they're like the Messick Tet, Conjuring Seal. I don't play a lot of Gold, so I haven't looked at this in a while, so I can't just like rattle it all off on the top of my head. But I think one thing when you're thinking in a more traditional fashion is that playing an archetype locks in an amount of cards. So if I am playing traditional Golrang, that already speaks for roughly 30 of the cards. And you only have so much flexibility outside of those cards. And this is something we see a lot in card games. That's like, oh, I'm playing Bug Fix Trace, therefore it has these cards spoken for. So sometimes that just doesn't allow for the flexibility of playing something like the Rare Templar in the case that you're mentioning. The other thing to factor in is, like, the mana could just matter more than the value you're getting from it being the rare version. So, um, kind of like one thing in the game that really helped me understand how important a mana is like so the way I actually started, playing Altered, or I guess consuming Altered, was, when I discovered that online tournaments were happening, it was, like, March, and then in April, I was away, so I couldn't like participate or watch. But then April, all I did was watch every single tournament, and I watched all the AWOLs, and I watched all the undefeated replays in Board Game Arena and all the X ones. And that's like how I just consumed so many games. And from there, you kind of just like notice certain patterns, and like seeing some people's decision to play the rare mana eruption versus the common mana eruption was like huge for me. Like I've seen so many games that were like, oh my god, they like resupplied into rare mana eruption, and if it was a common, they would have lost. But since it was a rare, they won. And like just seeing how valuable a single mana is so interesting in this game. So I think it might actually be a feature and not a bug to run the common version. Like part of me wishes that they were swapped. That way they have to use a rare slot to get the 1 mana after you.
Yeah, that could be an interesting design change. The only Ortis hero I will play is Goldring, and I actually really like Gift of Self in
Yeah,
Goldring.
okay.
But it's still a rare slot, so it's still taking up a rare slot. But if anyone is looking to try something out other than Conjuring Seal, maybe try a Gift of Self. Can be a lot of fun. But there's probably downsides to it, and it's still a rare slot, so,
Yeah,
um
it's hard to get the extra material. Like Lindaway and Sigismar both have the material that they can give away, but a lot of the times you're trying to like defend. So I think that's the reason why they play Conjuring Seal, because they like need the material to stay in play to block.
yeah, we still have, this other game going, I
There's
think
3 games going.
yeah, but every time I click into one, you see GG, so really, there's only 1 game going, um, which
What if Revert Afanis is just trying to make a statement and they just want like as much screen time for their platform?
yeah, what is the statement? Oh, they actually won, via progressions here, with small step.
Oh, yeah, the Coast to Coast, my favorite, where you just make, Akasha go all the way to Taru, and Taru's just, like, standing there.
Yeah. Well, congrats, Revert Afanis. You did it. I wonder if this was a name change or if this is a new account because already at 430 elo.
You
Uh,
can actually see when the account was made. I'll look into
yeah,
that.
July 17th. So it's not even a month old yet.
Yeah, but,
Oh,
I think in BGA you can revert only once, right? Or you can change the revert. You can only change once, right?
yeah. So this account used to be barcode scanner. So now you are caught red-handed
Wait,
barcode
how
scanner.
do you know that?
It's in their,
Oh.
player history.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Wait, I thought Barcode Scanner was a way better name.
yeah, I think so. It is a shout out to Revert Waru though,
Yeah.
which is a name we enjoyed for a while.
Man,
We are in round 3 though, if you want to see if any of these matchups stand out to you.
um, yeah, I mean, maybe some small bias, but how about we watch Freeloader play one?
Alright. Freeloader, one of the better members of AQZ. Um, Definitely worth watching. I'll go ahead. We're gonna load the game art. Thank you, Pedro, for becoming the first AWOL supporter. While this art loads, we did hit the threshold for certain monetization on YouTube for AWOL.
Let's
Of course,
go.
that will be going to prizing and things like that. And if Simon lets me embezzle some funds, maybe it'll go to keeping me out of a cardboard box. But last I asked, he said it'll go to more prizing. So
You
thank
know,
you for the support.
if Simon says, right?
Yep, it's always if Simon says. Also, it's all love to Rune Folk. I will forever give you a ton of shit. So especially for playing my least favorite deck in the world.
But yeah, so Freeloader and I always have a debate on the AQZ team as to like the joke we have is that our team probably has the best Kojo in the world, but we both think it's the other person. Like I think Freeloader is better than me with Kojo, and he thinks I'm better than him with Kojo. So love watching his matches because sometimes I just see lines that I either doesn't occur to me as quickly, and he likes certain cards more than I do. Like I'm a huge physical training hater, and he like loves the card. But sometimes like the way we read cards is different. Like we had one thing in preparing for Dallas where he was comparing Scotty to Haven Bouncer, but I compare Scotty to a Bravos Tracer that doesn't get fleeting. So it's just like very interesting that like we both respect each other's opinions and we both recognize each other as being good Kojo players, but we fundamentally play the game differently. Kind of cool.
Yeah, watching some of the games last night, it was very interesting to see his deck choices with Kojo. But the first card here is Isunboshi, which I gotta say was maybe one of the MVPs for your performance in Dallas. I think from what I clocked, there were at least 2 or 3 moments where Isunboshi saved the day.
Yeah.
How did you feel when actually playing them?
Yeah, so it actually started with um ironically there were two matches I played testing that week, and they weren't explicitly testing matches and they weren't for this purpose, but it's what made me realize I should play more one drops and specifically Ishambushi. So what happened was, I lost to Meltdown in a mirror where I punted like somehow 3 times in 2 days. But one of them involved him having a one drop and I didn't. And I'm like, there's no way I'm not having a one drop in my opener. Ironically, I played 9 1 drops and I had 5 hands that didn't have a one drop in the opener, which was also kind of wild throughout the day. But the second game I played that really showed me the power of Ishambushi was specifically playing against Freeloader when he was playing all commons in the ace against my normal deck with uniques. And I almost exactly lost because of a partway through Ishambushi. See you later, Elia. Um, but yeah, so specifically because of an Ishambushi, and then I was just like, wait a minute, like I think I think you can actually like solve a lot of problems and even like juke people out if you play multiple Ishambushis where you can um, trap them in water, or you can get past a water where they think they're trapping you. So one actually happened in my top four against Symbiosis, where I was actually able to use, I forget if it was 1 or 2 Ishambushis, but the first advancement on the companion side was in solo water, and I just played Ishambushi once or twice there, and the mall was just like stuck in the water while I was able to get past it. Um, so I think it actually shores up a very important weakness. And what people kind of forget sometimes is like, sure, its stats are awkward, but you could just support ability and make it a 1/1/1. Like, sure, it doesn't get the after you from being that 1/1/1. And if you have Haven, you get a 1/1/3, which is obviously fine. But like, if the stats don't line up on the way back, you can make it work for you. So yeah, ironically, there were 3 different times in the top 8 where I played Ishambushi and my opponent would just shake their head and they're like, how is that just the perfect card here? It's like, well, I actually planned this, like, in the deck building process. But yeah, so Freeloader's actually probably the person that showed me the power of Ishambushi by playing this commons only deck in the Ace last week.
Yeah, that was a very interesting deck to witness. I don't think he told any of us ahead of time, but we
Mm-mm.
were just kind of watching it progress, and you could see the AQZ members react like, "Wait, is this? Are you playing only commons?"
Yeah.
And Freeloader was just saying yes. Obviously, this deck is not the commons only version. There's a rare Mighty Jin, but I think the one drops is a good call out, and then just how you saved them for the right moment or planned using them was super beneficial as well. 9 one drops sounds like a good amount, but it's not the 12 one drops that Simon plays. So maybe you need to add 3 more.
Yeah, I was a pretty big Axiom Salvager lover for a while, but, I think with how Skater and, what's the Order Scout Templar, like, lineup is just, like, a lot worse now. Like, there's so many easy ways for them to, like, pretty much put effectively a boost on something. So I actually like the asymmetric stats more. One thing that's really cool about my Kojo list was, and I sent a screenshot to AQZ, was by the time I finished with it, I actually you know how in the deck builder, it, like, sums up all your stats and tells you how much you have in forest, mountain, and water? I actually had one more water stat than forest but water's known as being the weakness for Kojo, and I was like, I think I could use this to my advantage. Like, it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, there were a decent amount of Kojos in the event itself, and you were the number one Kojo, so we can all just boil it down to one extra water and a dream.
Yeah, exactly. You know, don't let your dreams be dreams. But so focusing a little bit back onto this game, so um, it was pretty good that Freeloader was able to get the Mighty Jin off, but the problem is now you kind of want a second Mighty Jin. And it's hard because depending on the uniques you're playing, or if you want to play a Clute, which has been like a tech choice against Trace, you actually can't play as many Mighty Gens. We actually see the Ishambushi here being used to put the boost onto this Tiny Gen, which is interesting. Probably doing it in the face of that acapella training, but alternatively, it's kind of tough. So I know Freeloader doesn't play uniques that give boost to other things, but if you did have that, so for instance, there's some uniques that say um, put 2 boosts on something in the other expedition, it would have actually been preferred to just run out the Ishambushi, then run out the Tiny Jin, and then play one of those. But knowing that his uniques don't do that, he has to run one of these types of lines. There's an argument that the after you might just be worth it and just trying to pinch the Fen on mana, but I think overall I like this. I mean, the feel of this is that I feel like this is leading up to a physical training because once again he likes that card way more than I do. So I feel like we might see that here.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the Chiron that can give boosts to Tiny Jin. For a very long time, I played Chiron and Tony Jin in Muna
Mhm.
and really enjoyed it. Keelan guy especially would always give me a ton of shit about playing Tony Jin in Muna. But I talked to one of the game designers, and they said it's a very good card, very good play. So I'm vindicated. I'm better than Keelan guy. That's it. So
Well,
Jins everywhere are great.
yeah. So if Tiny Jin said from hand, draw a card, and like if it wasn't Tiny Jin, like I'm just making up a different card. But if it said from hand draw a card fleeting and then has the same stats and costs, the question is would you play it? And if the answer is yes, then making it a mana in the early game is better than drawing a card. Because it's effectively like if you put the top card of your deck in as a mana orb, like you lose the optionality of seeing an extra card, but having that resource sooner is better. So I think that's like a shortcut that people don't use often enough. That like putting something in mana is like better than drawing a card. In the early game, it's worse in the late game. Um, but yeah, so I don't know if we highlighted this unique. It's one that Freeloader actually picked up recently, and I quote, I'm picking up this unique. That way, both Rinku and I can play Kojo in online qualifiers. So I think he thinks mines are better, um, but it's still a really solid one. What would you like to read it off?
Yeah, so it's a Haven bouncer that when it leaves the expedition zone, it sabotages. And then from reserve, you may put a card from your hand in reserve if you do draw a card. From what we've seen so far, which is not very much, this might be very good comboed with the Isunboshi, whatever other cards might have support abilities, or you're fine having 1 life, and then the cost, 3 from hand, 4 from reserve, and a 3/3/3 is, pretty great as well.
Yeah, so this unique is effectively 3 half cards worth. So sabotaging is getting rid of half of a card. And then the from reserve ability, putting a card from your hand into reserve and drawing a card is once again up half a card. However, Kojo plays a bunch of cards that naturally have fleeting or are landmarks. And those cards, if you play them from hand, you just played a whole card. So you actually convert a half card into a full card. So this Haven Bouncer is effectively 3 half cards or 2 half cards and a whole card, which is pretty good. Um, so one interaction that I know are aware of some of the rules and like judging related things. One interaction that came up at the end of yesterday, or whatever we call it, the previous day. I guess we wouldn't call it yesterday in this game, but the previous day that I've started to learn over time that I didn't 2 weeks ago. But it's how active player works. So what happened was we had the Kojo that lost this unique to the reserve, and it said when I leave the expedition zone, sabotage. But then there was also this Inkcasters leaving, says when I leave the expedition zone, do the thing. And it's actually I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the last player that played a card that becomes the active player and chooses how to order that in the, whatever it's called, the abyss or whatever the stack is called in this game.
Yeah, so there's an active player and then there's the first player, and I believe that is correct. I'm trying to leave my judging days behind as much as possible because as even a lot of higher end competitive players have admitted, it's just so much. It's so much to be a judge. Um, but yeah, I think that's correct. The when you play a card, or the last person that played a card is the active player, and active player is different than first player
Mhm.
because if you have the first player token, you're the first player. So 90% of the time in games of Altered and sequences, it's not super important. But for things like this, when I leave the expedition zone, sabotage, or there was a circumstance in Dallas. I don't think I got to hear specifically what it was, but it was a question of like sequencing after rest or at dusk or when
Mhm.
leaves the expedition. So it is very important to know the ins and outs for those very specific situations.
Yeah, I think one thing that helped me a little was not like just translating what active player meant, or sorry, what first player meant. And all first player means in this game, to me at least, is that when we enter the new phase, so if we are entering noon or we're entering afternoon or we're entering dusk or whatever, when we enter something, if there's a thing you would normally do, the first player's doing it.
Yeah.
But if there's something that involves like a decision or not something you would normally do, then it's active player is kind of how I think of it.
Yeah, so if a lot of the time when we play in person and it's just more casual, we don't super play by the rules of first player, but a very good example is in Altered, the first player, so the person with the first player token, should always mana first,
Yeah.
and then the next player chooses to mana or not.
Yeah.
It becomes really important in competitive play because, as they say in TCGs, the more information you have, the more of an advantage you have. So, if you're the second player and you mana before the first player, you just cheated yourself out of having more information to react on.
Yeah, I think one thing I like doing as the second player is kind of pre-moving my mana just, like, for pace of play, making it a little bit faster.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of well, I also use mana convergence, so it's actually easier. I can just have my mana convergence. I can set a card face down, like I'm ready to convert it into mana convergence. I don't have to lock it in if they do something that surprises me, like not mana when I thought they would. Here we see Ben actually getting a double advance to be back into it with that mag pen. So pretty cool. Fen has its own version of Bravos Tracer, so being able to utilize that. But I think one thing that's interesting here is that the Honey Gin doesn't line up perfectly, but it might be good enough.
Have you read over the altered flowchart?
No, what's an altered flow chart? I'm almost afraid, but
So I think the flowchart is one of the better ways to understand certain sequences like this. I will share it in the tournament discussion in AWOL, and then if you're a player and you haven't seen it, and you want to kind of learn the ins and outs more, I recommend taking a look at it. um, this actually will show it on screen for a second, but it'll be not centered correctly. But
you're good.
this will kind of tell you the differences between active player and turn order and first player. So
Oh, nice. Okay,
um,
cool.
it is an unofficial official resource because it was made by Maverick, who ended up becoming the rules manager. So you
Classic.
wanna be bigger brain for the qualifiers, definitely take a look over that. But
Yeah,
Paper Herald here, this is kind of the same style unique as the other one we saw cycled a bunch of times. From anywhere, you may return a card from your reserve to your hand. Well, this one has when you play another character with base statistic of 0, you may put a card from your hand in reserve. If you do, you may return a spell from your reserve to your hand.
yeah.
Little more costly than the normal Paper Herald, but very good abilities.
Yeah, so trying to figure this out from freeloader's perspective. So you know that they can definitely play a removal spell. So depending on what freeloader has in hand, but let's say it's a 2 drop just to make it easier. You gotta figure out where you want to line up this tiny gin. This yeah, it's like kind of tough either way. Um, but the decision to play the tiny gin first means that you're hoping that the red's good enough against the paper herald. Because right now, the Hawthorne's also not advancing. So if you have like double play here, it works out pretty well for you. But minimally, you should be able to get to the arena. But it looks like this should be good enough for freeloader. I forget if we know the card in hand. I think the Paper Herald picked up the Hawthorne. Okay, I see. So this is. Hmm, do I like that? I think I'm okay with it.
Oh, but the Duel of Grit. I was wondering if the last card was a Duel of Grit, if there was a very good way for Freeloader to continue on here. But
Yeah, yeah,
surprisingly enough, Fen had the Duel of Grit, which you don't see very often.
yeah. The It's, like, slightly hindsight bias, but this was part of the reason why I thought we might have had to play the red before the Fire Rabbit if Fire Rabbit was our last card. Like, I didn't explicitly say that, but, when I was thinking in my head, you just, like, don't actually know where you need the boost to go to, and then the problem is the Paper Herald still blocks you in water. So, a little bit tough run out there, but, it's more practice for this weekend.
Yeah, that's what this week is. Tonight is practice for this weekend. Table 21 though has a low percentage and it does not have Revert Aphanis.
Oh,
Has Maddox faction, who was
who's that?
also in Dallas.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, table 21, the Tootie and Maddox faction. Maddox is on Ghoul Ring, and we see two Masectets out against a Rin, and the Rin actually has a expedition lead here, and already seeing some very interesting cards you hardly ever see in Muna. Sap Dispersal, Rhyme Frost. I really like Tolarian Skater. I think it fits in very well in Muna, but I'm not sure if we see it super often.
Yeah, I think the hard part, with cards like that is that it's just using a rare slot. Like, if the card was
Mhm.
common, you would almost definitely play it, but the fact that it's rare is what's making it a little bit harder. Um, yeah, we definitely see an interesting build here. It's kind of a shame that it seems like just these Messectats are just gonna be really hard to power through, but I really do like the Rin trying, at least on this day, to fight on the hero side because you could see that the Ghoul Rang is in mono forest there, so that's Rin's strength and still allows Rin to try to progress on the hero side. So I think that's, like, the first avenue, like, you really want to progress this forest, and if you don't, it's probably game over. I think there was an interesting decision there, like the decision to play field reinforcements instead of playing the hypothermia to hypothermia the Mogwai, because Mogwai seems like the best way for them to try to power through. I mean, it could be possible that their unique's already like good enough this turn, but I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll see.
this paper herald is very good. It's 1-1-0-0-2, and it has the Quetz ability. When an opponent draws one or more cards or resupplies, create a recruit in your hero expedition. Muna is my main faction. It's what I
Really?
most
I didn't know that.
commonly yeah, it's what I most commonly wanna play. I just haven't played it as much because the meta is really bad for Muna, and I think this situation here is gonna be another classic example of that. Um, a lot of the time, easy to get ahead early, get that progression lead, but every other faction is a lot scarier once they get up to this mana level, and I think Goreng is no exception. Um, it would not at all surprise me to see the Rin lose the game here, even though if you look at it just on the tumult, Goreng is decently behind. If we don't take what's going to happen this day into consideration.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was trying to mention earlier, that Gold a deck that is really like an engine deck. If you think of like a Euro deck builder game or something like that, or just any kind of Euro board game, Gold playing closer to that, where it's just like, okay, there is some time on the clock. I need to like have this engine by this time. Whereas Rin's playing on the tumult. So we have reached the point where the engine is further than where the tumult's allowing the Rin to go. So right now they're just playing different games, and the Rin just like kind of can't keep up, especially now that the goal ring got past the forest stat. It's just very hard to stop any sort of advance because this Rin is electing to play a lot of these forest focused stats card, but look at the goal ring, it's just water and mountain.
Yeah, this water is especially going to be hard for Rin to block, especially with the two Mowglis. Just
Mhm.
super forest, no water. Um, Field reinforcements is another card that I really like in Ghoul Ring. I actually also really like it in Aphanis. If
Mhm.
people don't just completely give up on Aphanis, I think there might be a good case for the field reinforcements. Um, Common or rare, really, in Aphanis, depending on what other rare slots you have.
Well, Aphanis can only play the rare one because it's an Ortis card.
Yep,
Yep.
that's
But
a good way to, remember that that's how things work in Altered.
no, no, it's okay. But yeah, I think you are right though. I think if someone does elect to like, there's many starting points for Aphanis. I think you might want to start with the uniques, but if you don't, I do think reinforcements is pretty good in Aphanis. You can kind of supplement, or where you were using, say, like magical training might just still be playable at common. It's zero hard usage and you get a boost. Like might still be good with some uniques potentially. But you have that sleight of hand spot that was used at rare, but you might be able to use field reinforcements instead. I keep almost saying timely reinforcements because it's a magic card, but no, we're in altered land here. We got this.
Ooh, I like the bug fix as well. Take a boost from one recruit to create a bug, and then the bug just gets that boost back because it's also a token. Um, very, very interested to see if Maddox continues on with Ghoulrang. I am fairly certain he was playing Sierra in Dallas, and then before that was a longtime Waru player. RIP. Still think there's a good case for Waru, but people don't wanna deal with it, and I'm not gonna play Waru. So
Yeah, that's probably, a lot of people say that I entered in a very like pure time. Like I
Mhm.
effectively started like I did back the Kickstarter, I just didn't realize that people were playing the game already and that there were online tournaments. But I really started with the Trial by Frost pre-release, and I had someone like explain to me how like old Robin Hood and Waru worked at the store that I was playing at. I was just like, "Wow, that doesn't sound fun for everyone." And they're like, "Yeah, that's why they had to change it." I'm like, "Well, I never experienced that. I feel like I just have this like joyous outcome of like life." And some people are like, "Remember Waru?" And I'm like, "No." So
Yeah, no, I always say I think the game has been consistently fun and consistently a pretty great meta since the Robin Hood and Wario changes. I'll also add on top of that the Haven change. There
Mhm.
was a short period of time that they didn't let go on too long that Haven and Traced were just unstoppable. And then when Wari was unstoppable, you saw like the top 8 of all tournaments. 6 of the 8 were Wario, or 6 of the 8 were Traced. And we don't see that anymore, which is super great. And I think people can very easily get frustrated with their bad matchups and then go to, Reddit or Discord or wherever and talk about how this needs to be nerfed or that needs to be nerfed. I'm not gonna say that Afanis didn't need to be changed, but I will say it is nothing like Waru with Robin Hood was. So I kind of more so welcome erratas and nerfs pretty often because I think it just adds, a new fresh like landscape to the game. But people who spend $1,000 to $2,000 on a Robin Hood unique probably don't agree.
yeah, no, it's definitely tough, but the game's a little bit newer and we're still trying to feel things out. I will say that, if like just as someone that didn't play with either Trace or Waru, like that was all before my time. Waru sounds like at some point, if you played a Waru mirror, it just sounded like chess, which like at some point it sounds like you should just play chess. Like I believe there was, probably a lot of tact and like stuff going on there, but you know, um it's part of the reason why people like games of variance is because the board states aren't as predictable and there's a little more customizability to it. So I understand that one. The trace one, at least from like an outside looking in perspective, like I could see playing in the Waru meta being very hard for people. The problem I had with trace was I tried looking at old lists on 39 cards of both of these, and like the Waru ones like made a lot of sense to me, and like yeah, that chess element. I actually didn't like trace more because it just seemed like a very linear plan with not much change. I was just like, man, you're even playing like rare Ysmir's like Stargazer and stuff. You're just literally playing anything that's cheap and you're just playing all your cards every turn. And I actually dislike that more. Like it lacked an amount of tact or elegance to it. Like it's just like, I'm gonna play everything is roughly how I read the situation. So I'm glad I came in after that. Like I think I actually started watching Board Game Arena literally when the announcement of that happened, that it would be changed to tap, is when I started actually consuming content.
Yeah, I think that is true to how I feel about it. I don't think Traced ever got bad after that change, and a lot of people, cried out that Traced was dead, all of that. I think past month has kind of proven that to be incorrect. I think people just have a tendency to overreact to changes. I think he is a lot more interesting now than back then, where it was just like, oh, I just put things in reserve and I play them from reserve and I get boosts. That's it. But I'm running over to table 9, uh, sarcasm
Best
against,
username.
yeah, yep, against Dolmar. And I ran out of tea, so I'm gonna grab some water real quick, and I'll leave you alone with Rinku fans in chat for a moment because my throat needs water.
All right. Bye, Cole's throat. Um, okay, so hi everyone. It's Rinku here, which is great because either that's my handle or it's Rinku. Um, Yeah, pretty much I want to be Rinku on everything, but Rinku was taken because it's also like a name in certain cultures and stuff like that, like a name that people can have. So I drew inspiration from a streamer I like watching. It's Hafu, and I was just like, "Whoa, Rinku is like the same amount of like syllables." So I made it's Rinku whenever I can't be Rink. But yeah, I'd prefer Rinku overall. Um, but yeah, so we have Etsadi against Fen, and what's really interesting about this Etsadi is specifically playing that Bravo's Pathfinder. So we do see the Swiftgen ramp, but um, so normally we still see the Saven Herringer, the Haven Saringer, and then we'll also see cards like the Tiny Jin. So the decision to play Pathfinder means that they have some more low to the ground elements. I wonder if they're still playing a card like Eat Me Energy Bars, or maybe their engine's slightly different than we would normally expect from the Sadi. But I mentioned earlier how the typical Sadi decks are more engine decks, as in they don't care as much about the tumult. But the decision to play Pathfinder means that you do care about the tumult. So I wonder if we're going to see Atsadi maybe instead being used with, say, a Theseus to self bounce and get cards in the late game. So you could be like, I don't have a hero power until I need to draw cards, maybe. So it's definitely a very interesting decision to play the Pathfinder. Feel like if I were sarcasm, I would really put my thinking hat on, unless if you watch the replays of the previous round, in which case you would have all your answers. But I kind of like approaching this from the lens of like not actually knowing what's in the person's deck because this is all discovery you're gonna have to do in a closed tournament, closed decklist tournament. So sure, we have the BGA WCQs where you could see the previous deck list, but if you're playing a WCQ at home and you're not just playing in locals with people whose decks and uniques you know, that sort of discovery is very important. So I would emphasize you as a viewer or watcher to see what conclusions you can come to. Yeah, so we got this. I'm not very good at pronouncing this card, but Amale. Yeah, so we have this Amale to draw 3. So it's really cool that Amale usually ends up trading 1 for 1, and then also turns all of these fan half cards back into full cards. And when you're playing cards like Magical Training and stuff, it can kind of just get the train started. So minimally, that Saudi knows that they can trade 1 for 1 here, but really they got a 1-0 probably from this really cool Hydra. So let's see what it does. So I'm going to read off to you. It's Arrow. You may put a card from your hand in your reserve. Then you get the Hydra ability, which they're going to do here. And then you may put a card from your hand into your reserve. If you do, you may discard target character, otherwise send it to the reserve. So they actually chose to send the Amale to the reserve as opposed to putting a card from the hand in the reserve and discarding it. So they pretty much didn't want to trade their half card in hand, but it would actually be a full card because they would have an empty reserve. So they didn't want to trade full card for full card. Instead of saying, hey, I don't mind going after this on the way back. I think one thing that's generally important is understanding. So a lot of people like sabotage. Sabotage against things like Fen don't always work out because there can be an abundance of cards that are available. You actually want to win on the tumult sometimes and have your opponent still have cards in the reserve or still have cards in hand. So the decision on that Hydra to not trade a full card in hand for a card in play is more trying to play this tempo oriented game.
I love I love these Hydra uniques. I want a good one. I haven't looked at the market for a while. One of the things that I often say is I think high mana uniques are usually undervalued
Mhm.
until something happens with one of them that then skyrockets the price, like the unique Loki performance in
Mhm.
Leal or other events. Uh, but if you have a low budget and are willing to play higher cost cards, there might be some gems in the uniques out there.
I think one thing that's really nice about having higher costed uniques is that they're usually harder to remove. We think about the Off You Goes and Duel of Grits, teamwork training. It's actually pretty hard to remove a higher cost unique. So, Son of Yggdrasil is a good example, just a gigantic card that can just threaten both sides. And you can pick up a pretty decent one for, one that's like a six cost. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. This Duel of Grit is a pretty heads up play though. So utilizing first, I sabotage you with this Ortis spy, and then the aloe vera would love that water terrain, but being able to dual grid it is a good way to kind of get that card advantage. So we actually have that Saudi, we have the Swift Drin mana and now the Tiny Jin mana. So we might start seeing some big plays that but Fen only has so many removal spells. I think one way that Fen wants to win is with a Twinkle Twinkle line, like maybe a double advance they're um, when Fen and Crowbar are closer to it together. So we'll see.
Yeah, I have not watched too many games of Dolmar, so I'm not sure their kind of main strategy when it comes to Atsadi. Whereas Phobia, I've watched so many games and also played like over 20 against them.
Your
Um,
protege.
yeah, even then, I was very surprised to see the drop of the Theseus, but
Hmm.
I think it worked out very well for him, managing to go to top four at Dallas. There's a
Yeah,
couple different techs that Asadi can use, so we'll see what we got going on here.
I think so there's two things Theseus does. It like allows you to self loop to like draw more cards, but then the other thing is like allows you to fight for both expeditions. Like you can eat me energy bars, you can Theseus bounce that.
Mhm.
Um, I think in some of the scenarios, Mana Flare with Hunger might do some of the things you want Theseus to do when it's the second one. When it's the first one, obviously Mana Flare doesn't do anything. So maybe that was the consideration or the spot that Phobia changed.
Yeah, Mana Flare is kind of a newer one that people figured out. It actually does give you a benefit.
Mhm.
I think Theseus most often was used to return itself to draw a
Yeah.
card when you're lower counters, or return Sakurabru so that you can keep using it. But I'm a noted hater of the Sakurabru. I think 90% of the time it's a useless play. But what we saw over the weekend was when it's played correctly at just the right time, it is very strong.
Blue's noting that I have a 0 right here. Yeah, it's the first poster I ever got at a convention. There's one above it that is a Stitch, like riding a surfboard. So I have a Final Fantasy IX thing here. I have a plaque for Magic and a bunch of Pokemon and stadium seating. So yeah, my room's actually really awesome, but I appreciate it.
Room tour when.
Um, when I win Worlds, you have it recorded that I will do a room tour if I win. But
All right.
yeah.
Same here. If I win worlds, I'll do a room tour.
Of my place. I actually have to fly you out, and you will
Okay.
give people a room tour of my place.
Yeah, there we go. That's what we'll do. Yeah, my this room I really like because you can't see it in the camera, but at the top there's like shelving that's attached to the ceiling. So I have like
Oh,
all
I
my
love that.
collectibles around.
Yeah,
Um
I have a friend that has a very similar thing, and it's cool because you still have the shot that looks very clean in the background, but you know all the awesome stuff going on in the
yeah.
background.
My background's kinda messy right now, but it,
Right. Mine is too. I'm just trying to block it with like not moving that much. But yeah,
yeah.
all my altered cards are back there, and my birthday presents from last month and stuff. So a lot of stuff. But yeah, back to the game. So they're both they're both 2 regions in between, meeting. I don't know, like, people think they're, like, 3 advancements away, but I count how many regions are in between for some reason. Like, I don't even know if there's a term for that. Like, I call it the Kaibara counter because that's, like, what you're trying to count how tough it is. So
Yeah.
they're both at Kaibara count too, but, so leading with the EME energy bars with 7, I think I've seen the song and dance before, but let's see if it happens.
Yeah, I kinda wanna see. Yeah, I mean, it's very, very telegraphable play, but also if you don't have something to get rid of the eat me energy before, you can't do anything. I would love to see either in the next couple weeks or maybe with the new set Skybound Odyssey, a different combo to kind of fake people out with the eat me energy.
Yeah.
My main issue with it in general is Fenn's gonna get a double move anyways right here.
Just a single. Oh, you mean if they keep on plowing through? Well, so
Yep.
part of the problem is like sometimes you want the EME energy barbs to go to the reserve, but this is the best line. So if you have a sleep on it, then they can't double kick back again.
Yep.
But they're still at board parity, which is not nothing, and you still have the Sakurabaru chilling there for next turn, which can just be sleeped again. So effectively, the Twinkle Twinkle is just stopping the energy bar. You can think of it that way. That is stopping like the energy bar Sakurabaru package now. But in terms of like otherwise board position, they're just starting to stay fresh. They just both have the same resources. Um, but yeah, so going back to what you were saying before, I think outside of the sleep related matchups, I actually really like I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, but Demeter. Um, so I think that's a really cool Eat Me Energy Bar combo when they can't sleep your card. It's obviously matchup dependent, but I think that could be better than Sakurabaru in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a really cool one, and depending on when you play it and your counters, Demeter is 6 mana, right?
Yeah, 6 mana, 6/4/4, I believe. That
Yeah.
combo.
And that's another one that there might be some uniques out there,
Yeah.
just sitting there that are $5 on the market that could be very good in Outsadi, but also with the energy bar. Um,
Hmm.
One play I wish we got to witness more is an opponent shutting off the energy bar
With like
because
a
it's
mana moth.
yeah, yeah, just like a mana moth or in Axiom, hooking this Chiron over.
Yep.
Very, very cool play, but it's very situational and not witnessed as often.
Yeah, it's still worth mentioning. You know, people are preparing for the Tumult Championships. They might not have seen all these interactions. So, what Cole's kind of suggesting is you can either try to force them to flood the energy bar, and then they will lose it because they'll advance on that side. Or what you could do is you could preemptively shut it off, or shut it off after they played something by playing. Typically, it's Ysmir that could do it. So, say if you play a Moth Breeder, it actually says create a 2/2/2 anywhere. You create it in the area that has the EME energy bars in it.
Yeah, I am also excited for Cowrie, the new Muna hero.
Hmm.
I need to pull up and double check what expedition you put the Woolly back in. I can't remember if you get to pick or it's a very specific one. But the Woolly back will also be super interesting tech against things like the Eat Me Energy bar, and not sure I think of any others off the top of my head, but there will definitely be others.
Blue set is companion zone. Also, I just realized that I have a different light bulb that will help with the lighting. I was just looking at YouTube, and it's not as nice as I would like. So just give me a sec.
No worries. It's companion zone. So that is a very good consideration to make. In this regard, it would have worked out. Notably, the Sakura reel is hitting pretty hard, and the follow-up after as Atsari is just one progression away. This Kodama itself is kind of an unfortunate resupply with where Fen is at currently. Because drawing a card from hand would be great, and while sleeping something with good stats would have been better days ago, kinda hurts right now, and so they just switch it. Now they'll play it from hand.
Wow, they just use pure sleight of hand on Board Game Arena? How do they do that?
I don't think there's anything in the rules that says you can't be a magician and play altered, so
Wait, that's literally what I do.
are you also a magician?
No, it's just some people will call, like, Magic players either wizards or magicians. So,
Ah, I see, I see. There's
it's a
a
well, Magic, yeah.
there's a player, that plays in a lot of the 2v2 events, and he is literally also a magician.
Mm, okay, cool, yeah. Yeah, I've never played 2v2, and I've never played 3v3. I don't even know how the 3v3 format works. I just saw that there were side events for it at Worlds, but maybe I could convince, like, Rune and Freeletter to play with me or something. I assume it's, like, some unified, like, format or something where you can't play, like, overlapping cards, but 2v2 sounds kind of wild. I mean, you have, like, things like anchoring each other's things and, like, Anubis and stuff, but I feel like if I were to play 2v2, I would just have both players play Lyra Festival, and then you try to just festival each other. So I don't know. I would play 3v3 like team unified, like different matches, but I don't know if 2v2 is for me.
Yeah, 2v2 is a lot of fun, and there's a pretty good, following for it and the format. I think it would be super interesting to have like an entire 2v2 event and have it streamed and like have teams and stuff would be super cool. At PAX Unplugged, so the end of last year, Lyra Festival was a very big hit in the 2v2 decks, but at Gen Con 2 weekends ago now.
Mhm.
Not really any of them were playing Festival. At the time, I asked them why, and I think the answer was there's just too much removal now. But Infinite, another one of the
Yeah.
top cut players, him and his wife, and like a guy trying in them are all very big into 2v2.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll talk to them about it later. I've been talking to them about Baltimore, so cool.
Still going to Baltimore, see if you can cut someone else out of Worlds, just
Well,
snatch it away.
well, A, I'm hopeful that if I were to win, that they would pass the invite down to second. Uh,
Yeah.
2, I'm really hoping that they have commentary and they allow me to do commentary the whole time because I would much rather do that than play. I Even if they allow me to play and they pass down the invite, it's just like it's there are some feel bads. Say if I were to like beat someone into top 8, well, the ninth place person is gonna feel really bad. Say if I'm in the top 4 and now the other person's like, wait, if I just win this, I make the finals, and if Rinku wins, then like I just have the qualification. Like I feel like in an ideal world I would just commentate. But if they want me to win a second Tiny Gin, like I'll go do it. Like it's fine.
Yeah, notably in this game here, the Fen was able to use that Twinkle Twinkle to erase the advantage that Saudi had. In
Yeah.
this matchup, I think the mana range and discrepancy is not as big of a deal. As I
Mhm,
was talking earlier, even if I'm Muna with 12 mana against a Nat Saudi with 13, I'm still scared. There's not
mhm.
really much I can do with the extra mana that's gonna super guarantee winning out. But Fen and Atsadi might be a little more evenly matched with this realm of the game.
Yeah, so we're in the spot where sarcasm can actually just determine a lot of the setup for next turn. So they can look at their mana orbs, they can look at their discard pile. They should be determining those last two cards in the deck because it might be worth magical training into one of those two cards if it's that important. For instance, we've seen two full Twinkle Twinkles being used, so they're in the discard pile. But if they play three, that can kind of help try to get a double advance. or just get into the arena and then sleep later. Like knowing what compositions left in your 2 card deck is rather important here.
Yeah, and there's a discount here from the ink caster. There's a sleight of hand if for some reason, well, just does it for the 3 mana. So maybe they're looking for something exactly like you said. Ooh, the last card from Atsari here isn't the most amazing. It's just another chocolate bar. Um,
It's not bad though. So one thing that sarcasm can consider is sleight of handing up the requiem and requieming the candy bar. But yeah, a cocoon's probably one of the better cards outside of Twinkle Twinkle. Twinkle Twinkle like borderline wins the game. But you can depending on what the remaining card is, or it's at least close. Um, yeah, so this hoarder kind of implies that there's something that could be done on the side. So a cocoon can kill the Sakurabaru. In the worst case, you can Requiem. Um, but here it looks like just trying to bang down the front door to say, okay, I like will set up this double Incaster, and then I'll be able to just go to the arena, but then the EME energy bars is still there, which is like the tough part. So really
yeah.
hoping for another sleep effect. But Sakurabaru from hand now is not very good when you're in the arena. You should just kick them out of the arena. Like they go back into the tumult.
Yeah, one of the good things about playing out this double ink caster is the Requiem does get picked back up into
Mhm.
hand, as well as this Kodama, which will draw another card. And if this last card is the Twinkle Twinkle that you think it might be, kind of what you said, it can easily win games. Put two things to sleep with one card essentially.
Yeah.
Could be very good.
The tough thing for Fen though is that it could just be in one of the 13 cards. It could have just been one of
Mhm.
the one of those. So yeah, they would have deduced what their last card is. But leading on the Ortis Spy, so probably gonna hit an Inkcaster because that hits both stats and mana potentially. And if there's like an Anansi or something like that, being able to address that earlier is better than later.
Yep, there goes the chocolate bar. Now another Sakurabru cannot push them out of arena, which is not possible, but maybe they'd bug BGA. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone try it. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a very easy way that Ben has this, depending on what we have in hand. A Hydra would go pretty hard right now.
Yeah, it's interesting for me that Sarcasm chose to play the Contortionist instead of the Kodama that we knew about, to draw a card and just get a little bit more information. That means that they value the stats a little bit more, but the Chiron is kind of the most logical play afterwards. Still valuing playing the Kodama last. So yeah, I guess it is just really valuing the stats. But Taijin being the last card, not great for Itzadi.
Yep. And now Fen will draw another card. Doesn't even really need it. Can just play the Ink Caster.
GG's in
You
the chat.
win. Are we gonna see them play out the final card, or do they just play? Okay, it was a Martingale. Not the most exciting pickup, but better than nothing.
That was a good game.
All right, where are we?
Well, you're in Texas. I'm outside Philadelphia.
Philly, and you didn't go to whatever PAX is in Philadelphia.
PAX Unplugged. Yeah, I wasn't able to take off of work and uh, didn't. Well, I didn't play Altered at that point last year. Like, I still
True.
don't even know that Altered. Like, if I knew Altered was at PAX Unplugged, I would have went last year, but I had no idea it was there. So I bought my tickets for this year. Actually, I'm actually choosing to not go to a Magic tournament that I qualified for to go to PAX Unplugged just to take some of the marbles. That's really my goal this time.
Yeah. Uh someone needs to keep Robbie in check. He has too many giant cards. Table 19 looks like it has a little bit of life left in it. We can see a
Thought
little
about
more,
Dave back out there.
yeah, a little more of this Akesha deck to see if we can kind of get a handle on it. I mean, it just we haven't seen a Nilum at all. The cards would maybe tell you that with like the Pomola, and I believe there was a Rhyme Frost, different things like that. But maybe Pomola's just kind of a decent card with a backup quick action if you need it. And there's a very nice almost empty Frog Prince unique.
Yeah, I really like the cheapness of the Frog Prince from the reserve. It's actually kind of wild. So that means from reserve, it's a one cost 3/2/3, which is actually wild.
We are avoiding table two on purpose. uh I accidentally clicked into it. No, no table two. So here's the Ortis Crier. I actually thought Ortis Crier was the same mana cost as the Bumblebee, but the common is
No.
two from reserve, not three like Bumblebee.
Yep. So common Bumblebee in Muna is two from the reserve. But the rare one is 3 from the reserve and then, gets the anchor, and that's the one that the Ortis has for the out of faction, and then the Ortis Crier rare is 3 from the reserve, but
Hmm.
then you can spend one of the boosts to um,
Two mana
ready
orbs,
2 mana orbs, I
which
think it
is
is.
just a crazy ability, which
It
doesn't
makes it
even
like a
really get
trooper.
used.
Yeah, it makes it like a trooper if you need it to, but
Yeah.
there's kind of just better uses for like if you make your tiny jail a rare, now you get like half a card back. But we're talking about earlier how important it is to utilize the mana. But for the crier, just being a two cost from reserve 3/3/2 is definitely serviceable enough. It doesn't have to be a reverse trooper or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. If the crier was in Muna, I would absolutely play the rare. That would be so good. But it's
Yeah.
not. It's an Ortis.
Okay. You should draft more, Cole. You seem to like a lot of these cross, faction synergies.
Yeah, I draft whenever the option is on the table. 90% of the time I'll draft Arok because I think she's the most fun to kind of
Mhm.
mix factions with.
Yeah.
Um Gen Con though, when we were drafting Simon's Cube, I made a traced deck that was looking very, very good. It had a lot of synergy with like Bravos and some of the boosts and then different things you get from reserve. But
Hmm.
we had to catch the bus, so I didn't even get to finish one game.
How does I actually haven't drafted Altered yet, just the concept of it makes a lot of sense to me. How do the heroes work, both in cube and normal? Is it like just a card in the pack that you just choose your hero at some point? And is that true also in cube drafting?
Yeah, so in draft or sealed, naturally, every pack has a hero,
Hmm.
so it can just work the same. Um, you can draft the hero when you open a pack, or you can pass it and draft a card. You so there's like traditional rules and house rules. I think the rules specifically say you can change your hero and you can also change your deck between rounds using
Right.
your draft pool.
Yeah.
Some people will ban certain heroes, like especially Sigismar, and just let people kind of pick their hero because you're going to open all of them anyways in a draft.
Mm.
But then yeah, it's just what you can draft up to three factions. One of them has to match your hero. And then in a cube, depending on who makes the cube, either every pack will have a hero, or in Simon's cube, I think there's only one of each hero. So there's 18 heroes, which in a draft means everyone should easily be able to get a hero. But if you mess up and you don't draft a hero, you just get no hero.
Wow.
And you get no
That's
hero ability.
Yeah, people complain about, like, Aurak and Arjun and stuff, but probably better than not having a hero. But, like, yeah, I guess, like, yeah. No, it's cool. But yeah, so we see a hunger here. So it seems to be the signature card today for Body by Dave. But Sigismar could just play to the other side. We do go to the arena, but instead
Ooh.
it's asleep. Oh my god, what a way to do it!
Yeah, no cards in hand, no answer. Sandman, so strong. Another card that I love in Arok. Saving it for the last moment exactly does what we're seeing here. Going to have the 3 in water, going to put the hunger to sleep and win the game.
Yeah. So actually, that was funny. When I first saw Sandman, I didn't understand that the joke was that the Sandman is putting things to sleep. I thought the Sandman was always played last, so it's lights out for the opponent. Like, I thought it was like a meta joke on the game, and then I realized it's putting things to sleep, and that's probably what they intended.
Yeah. All right. We are into round 5. We have
I feel like
4.
we gotta watch one of the top tables, right? Well, we'll
Yep.
probably watch. We don't want to watch the Roberta Faunus match. So, do we watch Arthur again, or do we watch? Let's see if there's someone towards the top we haven't watched. There's I feel like Sky Beast against Hyper K could be really good, or the Vent match. Either one of those.
Yeah, let's see here. Vint is
Maybe Hyper
playing
K,
for.
table
Uh,
6.
yeah, we're waiting on Sky Beast to join the table. I'll get that loaded up. While it's loading Sky Beast to join the table, I'll bring us over here. What if someone just hate drafts a hero? That is a valid strategy in draft. It's still like very hard though. With 18 heroes, you normally have 6 players in a draft, I think. So even if each person drafts 2 heroes, that's only 12. I have not seen it happen yet. So
So what I would want is I would want like a pool of heroes, and then what you do is before the first pack, you get 3 heroes at random and select one of them, and then you return all the other ones. And then at the end of the first pack of your draft, you do that again. Like you have a pool of 18 or whatever, and then you get 3 heroes, you pick one. So then it's not like a pick in the draft, it's like a separate like checkpoint where you like hope like, oh, give me one of like the Muna heroes or whatever, and you're just like hoping for it. I think it's fun to have it separated from the draft and like interwoven.
yeah, I have seen some people do things a little different with draft. Like I said, some people will always ban Sigismar. I feel like Waru is actually the really really big problem in draft. It's just the only
Really?
person big enough of a jerk to make the deck is blue, which is Waru Festival. It's uh, it's disgusting. But we're here seeing Siggy versus Tasia. Hyper K, if those watching don't know, was a classic Muna player that did really well for a long time near the end of Trial by Frost. Seems like they took a little bit of a break, but are probably back because of the qualifiers. The big thing for Hyper K is they did very well on a Tasia deck that did not have anchoring uniques and was just very traditional because they are from Brazil, which usually gets cards late. So they didn't even really have access to cards and just played very well.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, I think there's even a period of time in Trial by Frost where they were doing well without any Trial by Frost. Like they only
Yeah.
had 1 cards. And
Yep.
then yeah, so like, people have complained about mass anchoring uniques and all this stuff, and like Hyper K has good uniques, but they're not like handcrafted throughout all the world or anything like that, or like that they spend like thousands of dollars on it. It's just so great to see them do well. They have from watching, so many replays when I first started playing, I watched a lot of Hyper K matches, and they just have a way of playing Muna and Tejon in particular, almost like an aggressive deck with like some staying power. So really utilizing those anchors and just almost playing like actually, if I were to relate it to something, it almost feels like aggro fen, like where you have these like spindle harvesters and aloes that you're trying to anchor a few, but even if you just get a little bit of value from them and play from reserve, that's where you're trying to get your advantage over time. So really like watching some Hyper K play.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see if this deck has no whispers cards and is just very traditional beyond the gates, Tasia. And then I think they started to add a couple trial at some point. I think maybe some sows, which
Yep,
fit
that's right.
really well in these more traditional decks. We'll see how it goes here. You wow, now my
Me.
brain did the thing. You meant oh, the watching of the replays, watching a lot of things back. That is a super smart way to do things and kind of a testament to your preparation. I'm not sure how many people would dedicate that much time, but it is a very good call out and something a lot of people should consider. All of the AWOL, all of the ACE,
Mhm.
and a lot of the AQZ tournaments
Yep.
are on YouTube, and you can find them and watch them back. It's like watching back tape when you're playing football.
Yeah, but, specifically, if you go on 39 cards and you open up the BGA link, then you can, like, click in and watch the replay, so I don't even just watch the things that's been covered, I wanna watch, like,
Mm.
literally every match these people have played, um, and yeah, it's like, instead of just, like, watching, like, a sitcom or something like that, like, I would just watch that every day, and that's, like when I played in my first AWOL, for instance, it's like, sure, like now I'm making the decisions, like I'm a part of the movie, but like I felt like I understood the scripts that were happening a little bit better. But I think this Axiom Salvager unique is not actually one I've seen from Hyper K before. Maybe it's a little bit more recent, but not in the olden days of me watching, 50 replays a day.
Yeah, I do not recognize this either. There was actually another Tasia player that spent the time to find 3 Axiom Scrambler uniques
Hmm.
because I think even now, even with Jack Frost and Little Mouse, it's an area that Muna doesn't have as many options in, which is Sabotage. I've come to call those kind of cards like pseudo sabotage.
Yeah.
Little Mouse technically does sabotage, but it then exhausted resupplies back.
Yep.
So very cool to see, but used now just for the anchoring. So just another option to keep those aloes around
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
still just classic hyper K play. There's nothing new here yet.
Right, exactly. So I think it's not just as simple as it being a scrambler. I think it's a few considerations. So it's a scrambler, so it gives you access to sabotage. It has a support ability that is very desirable in your resupply plan. But the last one is mountain is the weakness in Tasia, and it has a huge mountain stat. So instead of getting stuck on mountain, you can actually play the scrambler to sabotage and advance through the mountain.
That's I think that this cast is going to open up a lot of eyes in all sorts of different considerations. I don't think I've ever spent as much time really honing in on, the stats very specifically to their terrain. I'm sure everyone that's hyper competitive is like, well, you're Kohlrabi. Why of course we knew that. But I'm sure there's other people out there
No,
that
you're right. I've actually talked to a few people like this, and they just say that it's never occurred to them, like,
yeah.
that they're focused on, like, "Oh, I want large stats," or, "I'll worry about it when it comes up." But for
Mm.
me, it's like, I've already thought about how the middle terrain is just water. Like, you probably want an aloe vera at that point when you're entering, but you don't know which side you're gonna enter on. So it's like, actually, it could be beneficial to allow, like, an advancement just to flip over the card to see which side you need to allo on. So, like I said, most of my thinking in the game is literally just thinking about the run up terrains, but where I came to this conclusion was by watching so many replays, and I'm like, "Whoa, I thought this person couldn't lose. How did they lose?" And then the common answer was they just made plays that didn't factor in the terrains. And, like,
Yeah.
not just the known terrains, like how the terrains are gonna develop, but what does this unique do?
Yeah, so this is a Whispers card,
Oh.
or no, this is Trial by Frost.
No, 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 no,
Um,
it's oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, it
yeah,
should be whispers, right?
I think the set symbol is throwing us off because
No,
Whispers should be the like circle with. Anyways, it's a
it's
Bravos
whispers.
Pendikar.
Yeah.
That is 3/2, and then 1/2/2 at night. If I have one or more boosts, sabotage. So going hand in hand with the scrambler, and then a very very good line to have for Muna. When I go to reserve from the expedition zone, draw a card.
Wow.
So some cool tech here.
Well, so what's so good about this one? So yeah, I like that hypercase mixing up with some of the stuff here. So we see a slight more emphasis on sabotage, but what's so cool here is you can anchor or sleep this, and you could keep on sabotaging after rest. You could do kind of like the Waru thing, or however you want to phrase it. So they could choose. I want more resupply. I'm keeping this aloe vera or this the spindle harvesters, or they can choose. I want to keep this this and a car. And
Yeah,
choosing to keep the aloe, which, I definitely like that play here because you kind of want the legate to advance here, but you still advance yourself.
yeah, I was gonna say I think the thinking a couple seconds there was debating between the Pendicar or the aloe vera, which one to sleep. Aloe vera had the bigger stats, but the Pendicar, at least going to the reserve once, is gonna draw a card. Before that, they were getting a little lower on resources, and the aloe is going to provide more resources as well, and it'll still be there. It'll still be big stats going into this next day, and the terrain, very very good lineup for the aloe vera here. I think another on the point of thinking differently about the game or focusing on things, I think casting does as well provide you a pretty good benefit for competitive play. It's just if you have the time to do both.
Mhm,
I think I recognize a lot of the plays and see them and can call some of them ahead of time.
mhm.
Um, but I don't have the time outside of casting to actually put it into use.
Yeah, so, in other card games, when I've helped people try to improve, I haven't heard this philosophy elsewhere, I kind of made it up myself, but that there's kind of 2 different things that you should be doing, and it's hard to do them at the same time. So, first is there's all the plays that you would consider, and then taking the right plays out of that subset. And it might not have the objectively optimal play, but you know these plays exist, and you're making the one that you think is best. So that's like kind of optimizing within what you can see, like the vision that you have. But then the second step is what I call like expanding your vision, as in allowing for more possibilities of plays to occur. Like when do I let them advance, even though I could have stopped them and stuff like that. Like just there's so many more possibilities. So what I think what you're kind of expressing is that the first one that I said is kind of hardened by playing more. Like I am making decisions with what I can recognize. And then that involves playing to get better. But then for expanding your vision, commentating is fantastic for that because you really got to get in the heads of these people. And like you said, almost try to predict things in advance.
Yep. I think it is a good consideration for players to have. And I mean, I feel like what you did with a lot of your practice is kind of a version of commentating. Like you're not necessarily saying it out loud, but you're watching these replays, kind of watching for the plays, calling out, "Oh, I think this person has it, but and
Mhm,
they did this." For this spy specifically in this game, I think it's
yeah.
very good for Hyper K that it's a when I go to reserve sabotage versus just from coming out,
Mhm,
allowed to get the Muna Bastion out because the other one was already sabotaged away
Mhm.
and still equal on the expeditions. So very seems very good so far.
Yeah, a little bit tough for Hyper K to lose to Alavera there. So this is the first turn that Hyper K is not having something anchored. So this is really like, you know, you take the good with the bad. You have a spindle now, so you know that what you have in the future is good, but was it too late? I think the saving grace here might actually be that water stat on the companion side that you run out your next allo on that side and you just know it's going to be good because it's very unlikely that the Sigismar can remove it. The best case scenario would be playing a Sandman into that, which would cost you 5 mana versus their 4 mana for the anchor plus the allo. Um, but there's a point that you made earlier that yeah, yeah. So the so I made a joke that in my hotel room, I actually got 3 hours of sleep the day of Dallas. But from 5 AM to when everyone else woke up, I literally just thought about day 1 and day 2 of literally every matchup going 1st and 2nd. Like, my mind was just full of, like, Buddha coming out like, it was like Board Game Arena. It's like, "Alright, Buddha comes out. Great if I have Haven Saringer." Like, if I played on the other side, what would, like, my opponent who's playing Trace do? Like, "Oh, well, they could just play like, this Keelan Elemental. Is there anything I could do about it?" I'm literally just like, I did that for like 2 hours. It was actually wild. Like I started just seeing Buddhas like while I like had my eyes closed. So maybe a small obsession. Like maybe it's not strictly positive, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of almost like like I said, it's like the movie, and at some point you're in the movie, and it's like, I want to be both a connoisseur of movies and like an effector, I guess.
Yeah, I honestly kind of do a lot of the similar things when I'm falling asleep. And if I'm playing like an FPS or something
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah,
before
yeah, yeah.
bed, I'll be like falling asleep and my mouse button, like
Yeah.
mouse finger will literally like go doof, doof, doof,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like I'm still playing. So
I love it.
I get it. Seeing the plays that are the movie before
Mhm.
sleep.
Oh, wait, we got
Ooh.
another unique.
What do we got here? So this is a designer's drone, 2 from hand, 3 from reserve, 2, 1,
Okay.
1. So what matters first is it creates a token from hand, and then from reserve, target character in play or reserve gains 2 boosts. So just pretty good.
I
And it
like it.
gains the boosts in reserve here. The O gun being ooh, all
It's your
right.
card!
It is. It is Grand Bois and
An
was not
Oriole.
expecting to see that. Yeah, this card, is very good. I think it's just in the meta very hard to pull off. But in this matchup, I think it's free in this matchup. I don't think Tasia has anything to answer the Grand Bois unless it's a
And a
Requiem
repaint.
or Mana Reaping, which some Tasia decks don't even run.
Yeah.
Um,
I thought Hyper K is the kind of person that plays Lost in the Woods, which wouldn't be able to hit the Grambois there, if I
mhm,
recall correctly, but they've already shown new uniques, so I'm willing to believe that they're also playing different commons at this point.
yeah. Luckily, there is not a allo out, so it won't gain more than 1 boost. And notably, Muna does not draw cards very often, so it won't get bigger that way. Um, I feel like the O gun kind of has to come out first here. Um, I don't know. This is really
Mhm.
rough because the tent is on the wrong side, so you don't get the protection using the Muna Druid. Or they'll, just play a spindle into it and let's hope Ogun survives.
Yeah, well, so one thing that's really interesting, I actually used this once in the top 8. So since everyone tends to this is gonna sound negative, and I don't mean it to, but people tend to be trigger happy with sabotage. Like,
Yeah.
they won't wanna keep sabotage for, like, 2 days from now. They're like, "I'm going first. I have sabotage. I'm gonna sabotage you." So if you know the average person is trigger happy with sabotage type effects, it's actually beneficial sometimes to do something else say, "Wait, you don't have the sabotage? Now I get to wait until the last possible moment to use my Ogun." So that's
Yeah.
actually a conscious decision that's made sometimes, and I think at the top tiers, you actually see a mid-turn sabotage because of that. It's just like, "Well, I know that you know that," and you get this whole, like, Princess Bride sort of thing happening.
Yeah, it is a very, scary risk going up against a deck that has Jack Frost and Spies, and you have not seen all of them, but I mean, exactly what you said. The O-Gun survived, now it has another target here.
Now it's gonna be huge.
Um, there's only 1 card left, so if it's not the sabotage in this 1 card, then it can just continue to gain value as more, plants come out, and there's the big boy.
Yeah, I mean, despite what we initially thought, it looks like the tent might be on the right side. All the anchor cards are on that one. Well, I guess
Yeah.
it's the left side, but, however it goes.
Yeah. Let's see what if we see the last card or if they hold it for a little more. Gonna hold it.
Hmm. I wonder if it might be a Sandman, and you could, like, Sandman yourself? So you could, like, Sandman the Grand Bois, which, like, you might need to going into the arena, assuming that you have enough stats to get there. But at 989, okay, that might be too much with the Ogun, so no, okay, well, if it's attorney, then it should be fine. It should go into the arena. I did, like, fake math, but we got that.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
wait, no,
have
no, no, they're
y-
they're tied in water now, so it's actually yeah, so that's bad. So Hyper K ends up winning. Yeah,
yeah.
it was just barely enough.
So outside of uniques, there are not very many cards. I mean, there are no cards technically from Whispers from the Maze besides the uniques.
Yeah.
This is Sneezer Shroom is not a Beyond the Gates card, but a lot of them are. Okay, so yeah, this symbol is the Beyond the Gates symbol. That's funny that
Yeah.
BGA has it on the unique. That's Beyond the Gates. This is Trial by Frost, and then Whispers from the Maze is the weird one with like the rocks. I started to make it on my light bright back there, and then just
Oh,
never
nice.
never finished it.
I haven't seen Light Bright since I was a kid.
Yeah, they had a Stranger Things one at half price books for really cheap.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'll grab that.
Love me some Light Bright.
All right. So Runefolk is warning us that we're probably going to. I mean, he says that we have to spectate one of his games, but also
I think Arthur can beat him. Alright. I do have to use the restroom real quick, so I'll be right back.
no worries. I'll check in where we're at. Let's see. Someone we haven't seen. I think we have not seen Braminx, another KRA member. I don't know if I've seen them much at all. Let's see. This game might be over, but we'll give you more gameplay, more good while we can. Tooth or Tinkerbell. I always get those mixed up. Sabotages and off you go. This double. Yeah, Brovancher is already saying GG. The final card in hand must not be very good. 2 Kellen cylinders out as well is scary. This card, since it was not used very often until the last little bit, I forget about this card so often. And I have lost a couple progressions to this card. Very unfortunately. So always consider Kellen cylinder. All right, let's see what else we have here. I just gotta survive one more round here with you all in chat. So Maddox is still going. We'll check in on that. Ooh, this is a interesting looking game here. I can't be played if you have less than 6 mana orbs. You may put a card from your hand in reserve. If you do, up to 2 target characters each gain 2 boosts. I can do it. The good thing about losing my job is I don't really have to work very much. So I can wake up, clock in, and then probably crawl back into bed tomorrow for a little bit. Because the nature of the work that I do would actually be not super beneficial to start, like working with new clients and then be like, oh hey, by the way, now you have to go work with someone else. So we're gonna have at least one more day of double Masectet. Um, the Ortis Overseer also can create a token here on the hero side. We have a bug fix. I think notably the Kojo has more resources, at least in the way of cards to play. The mess is online. This Tomo is pretty cheap and a bunch of stats if you include the boosts and itself. If only that milk was out before Buddha. This turn actually looks really good for Maddox here. I was gonna say if there's any way to get rid of this Tomo, ends up looking even better. But this Tiny Jin is not gonna provide too much besides a little bit of block. There's no mountain terrain on Tufferton's sides. A lot of low cost plays though. What would be the card we would want to see in hand here for Maddox? A conscription would have went pretty well earlier. I think now though it's not going to be the case. Another Templar could be very good.
All right, sorry about that. I had to make sure that my girlfriend and I finish the cross mini before it rolls over in 40 minutes. So, priorities.
The what?
The cross mini, like the New York Times, like crossword
Oh,
mini,
yeah.
it rolls
Okay,
over at 10. So,
that's funny.
yeah.
That is great. Did she see the sign that you created for her during Dallas?
She said that it was kind of hard to read, but that that like Blue read it off like in the booth.
Yeah.
But all of her friends. So she plays competitive Pokemon TCG.
Ooh.
She's awesome. I go with her to events also for Pokemon. I'm way worse at Pokemon than I am Altered and Magic. She's way better than me at Pokemon, but which is great, humbling experience. But she's highly supportive. She'll be going with me to Paris and all that stuff. But she said that when she was watching, she had all of her friends, who I'm friends with too, but all of her friends like watching, even though none of them know how to play Altered, and she like knows a little bit about Altered, so she's like trying to explain the commentary of the situation and stuff. Um, and then when that happened, just like everyone was just like freaking out. They're just like, "That is the sweetest thing ever!" Like, I can't believe in the thick of like this finals, he's still thinking about you and stuff. So I think I scored some nice, brownie points on that one.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I legitimately did not know that the stream was max set to 480p.
Mm,
I can't remember if you and I talked about it, but
no.
I opened a pack on stream
Mm,
and I was like holding them up to the camera during a moment so people could scan them. And
mhm.
Gus was like, very hard to stream in 480p. And I told him, I was like, just turn up the quality. And then, like, after I noticed that it was capped at 480p, I was like, oh,
Oh my
whoops.
god.
So yeah, I think we did. I think I read out the sign. So, don't give Blue
Yeah.
credit. He already gets too much.
Well, yeah,
Um,
the line I definitely remember is Blue saying that, like, that's a funny way of spelling blue.
Yeah, yeah,
But
Blue did say that, of course.
yeah. Well, like, I didn't even watch it, and, like, she told me that he said that, so
Yeah. Kojo was able to win it out here. I think
yeah.
Maddox was doing a good job of trying to make a comeback, but it just was not there.
Yeah, a really sweet Tomoe unique, where you got to give 2 boosts to 2 2 characters, and it's like a
Yep.
4-3-3-3, so that's effectively like a 4 cost from hand 7-7-7. That's, like, split up so you can't even, like, single remove it, and by being 4 cost, it's actually a feature, not a bug, because then it, like, gets around things like, certain evanescences, and off you go. So, like, 4 is actually really good, and it's 3 from the reserve, so that Tomoe is actually really nice, and it's a 6 mana orb Tomoe, so I really like that one.
Yeah, it was very, very nice. We don't have to watch table 1, right? We can
No,
watch
no,
table
no,
2.
like, the time to watch it is the beginning, a and if it's effectively over, listen, we'll watch it, and then if I determine it's over, we move to another one.
There you go. That's the way to say it.
The game's actually very interesting before the game is effectively over in favor of, Akesha, like, this part of the game is actually fantastic, like, um, yeah, it's just winning looks different for the players, like, for Sigismar, winning is the traditional way of having Sigismar meet Wingspan. But for Akesha, winning just looks like you will never do anything and I'll win later. We'll leave if that's like very apparent. So like this is very interesting. And Arthur is one of the top, Sigismard players on Board Game Arena. So I really like watching them play.
Well said. How, as you are a member of Team AQZ and Revert Aphonis has been shown to be Runefolk, I believe he plans to play this type of deck this weekend at the EU BGA qualifier.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel as his teammate?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with it. I think like people say it's like something that won't win in paper, but like in paper you would just do things faster. Like a lot of the time is actually spent with the animations. And like one thing that people don't realize is like Rune has to play so quickly to be ahead on clock. And it's like if people play their decks knowing they're playing against Rune or knowing that they need to play a little bit faster, like that is how you're going to beat him. Like you can beat him at his own game if you just take your actions faster. Is that your average board game arena player is thinking, "Oh wait, I have 15 minutes to think. So I'm going to take 15 minutes to think." And it's just like, "No, actually if you play much faster, then the Akesha can either make more mistakes or not be able to win the way that they would normally win." So the problem is people try to like I've mentioned that there's really two types of decks. There's ones that care about the tumult and some that are building an engine. This type of hostage deck or any hostage deck is an engine building deck, and that is where you have to attack it. So you have to win on the tumult before that happens. But if they also are sloppy in their execution of how they're going to win, you can just play faster. So like being behind 40 seconds here is like not ideal. Like the major problem is that if you play in paper, people are going to take a disproportionate amount of time of a shared clock, which is not something they should do, whether it's intentional or unintentional. But they shouldn't really be taking longer if one player's faster. So actually, really, no, I think like I don't like how the quote hostage deck ends up winning ultimately, like because it doesn't feel good and people won't like concede. So I played against hostage once in my whole time of playing board game arena, all this stuff, and it wasn't Rune, but I played against hostage once, and then I think we got up to 12 mana, and then I just conceded. But
Yeah.
like the game wasn't going to be over for like 12 more days. But I played like two more games of like of altered in that amount of time that I still would have been there. So it's like I think it's more that people should understand the like terms and conditions. Like in general for these hostage decks. Like, sure, the Kesha build gets to play Small Step, Giant Leap. The Waru builds get to play Grand Endeavor. Like, they do have means of winning, but like you also can just play faster. But we should focus on the actual game. That was a very interesting Isatok play that we saw there. So Isatok's costing 5. If you're not aware that like the Isatok is going to cost 5 instead of 6, can really juke you there. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think Arthur being a frequent player of basically all of the online tournaments most likely knows what he is up against, and playing very specifically around with the Monolith Legat is getting rid of a lot of those tools, like not letting the Isatok come out another day, um, making those quick progressions, which we're gonna see a double move here, and I think it's gonna come down to just exactly what you said, winning on the tumult fast and early. Down a minute and a half or so of time, but doesn't seem to be hurting yet.
Yeah, so with 9 cards in hand for Revert Aphanis, so yeah, it's kind of tough. Like this is obviously winnable, but so in terms of like where we're at in the game, I think Rune would have preferred if it was maybe 2 expeditions away instead of just this one in between in the Kaibara counter. So just maybe a little bit snug, but definitely still a spot that. So one thing that's really hard here is the Frog Prince works on either side. So kind of doing another pseudo after you by playing this one drop. So what Arthur's probably going to set up is playing 2 units on both sides. Because if you play 2 on both sides, they can't just off you go and then like block with something. I think what Rune needs to set up is another Isata. Okay, like I wanted to say it before it came out because I knew that that was the most likely scenario. But yeah, so Isatok ends up being the most likely thing that like makes it so that we don't get double advanced. But still not fantastic. These Isatoks are really nice though. So one quality that's really cool about them is that they cost 5, but both Isatoks don't get hit by Tiny Jail, which is a problem with some 5 cost Isatoks.
Yeah, I do enjoy um how angry some people might get at playing Rune on these decks when it is kind of like you say, if you reach a point where you know that the game is over and you're not going to be able to win it out before this comes out and some of the other
All right,
things.
wait, this is it. If there's a license removal, it's over. And then if not, then I think we're seeing Celebration Day. This is the point of the game that we've led
Yeah.
up to. So if Arthur knows that this was the terms and conditions, like this is what I always save mana eruption for and stuff. Like this is where Hostage Lakesha gets to do everything. So I think I'll give it 2 more days, but given that there's no license withdrawal there, it's probably just over.
Yeah, let's see. I'm waiting, seeing what is gonna come out.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
What?
It's pretty much the big gambit. Like, not everyone has removal for the big permanents, but all Sigismard plays 3 license withdrawals, and you just like know you need to save it for the spot.
Arthur in chat is I'm guessing that means that he did not draw a license withdrawal, or he dumped it when he shouldn't have. Um Also, I do not know what Yu-Gi-Oh rules are.
Right. So I think what Blue's alluding to is that during season 1, Duelist Kingdom, what happened was that they just didn't really have rules. Like you can shoot your dragon champion at this castle's flotation ring, killing everything under the castle and stuff like that. So it's just like, oh, like how can you tiny jail my thing that is massive, like type of thing. And Isatak and Atlas would be like giant cards. I think is what
Hmm,
he's alluding to.
nerds. Yeah, this Does not look like Arthur has what he needs, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So,
I wanna give it another day or 2 though, because if Arthur draws license withdrawal, he can still hit the bastion before, this is the point of no return, but we are close. I'll give it one more day.
yeah, this is round 6. This is the top table. Revert Afonis versus Arthur. I would say Arthur Bekelar. I have no idea if that's correct, and he's never corrected me. So hopefully I'm close enough, Arthur, but probably not. If I tried another pronunciation, it'd probably be even worse. So also, Blue is busy testing things for the qualifier event this weekend. It's a never-ending job. I don't know how much time it took you to test that 25 times, but the players are better for it. So I
Alright,
I I feel like I haven't had a break. What about you, Rinku?
like a break from what?
That that means you have had a break. So I did Gen Con, came back from Gen
Oh.
Con, did Dallas, and then this weekend is the EU qualifier.
Yeah, so my little sister's getting married this weekend, so otherwise I would have done the EU qualifier and tried to do commentary. Originally, I would have played, but recent events have changed that. Dallas, and then I didn't go to Gen Con because it was the end of the internship for my job, so I couldn't like leave the interns there. In fact, I actually left like their last day 30 minutes early, that I could get the flight to Dallas.
Nice.
Okay, we're good here. Let's go to another match.
Uh, all right, Rune. It'll be very interesting to see how far you make it this weekend, whether you bring Waru or Akesha. I guess we can take a look at table
Wait.
2.
Let's look at table 10. I want to watch some
Okay.
freeloader against Symbiosis.
Okay. We can do that as well.
Thank you. It's mostly the trace matchup is something that freeloader and I talk to, and having a players get a Symbiosis, like being the person he's playing against, like this is stuff I actively want to look at.
Oh. There's
Uh,
that. I gain a boost for cards in each player's reserve.
yeah, and it's perfect terrains in terms of both attacking and protecting.
What do you mean you're not playing in the qualifier? What happened? I thought that was the plan for like all of you.
I know freeloader and Fra I think are playing, but I'm not sure if anyone else is.
Hmm. What do you mean this guy said he would have done a tumult? I actually do have a tumult. That's the weekend after this weekend. And then I think I have a break until September, whatever, when the next qualifier is. Oh, this guy's okay, yeah, doing a tumult.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
fair. You'll have more chances to do the qualifier, so
It's okay. As long as Rune goes to Paris regardless, that way we meet, I don't care if he's playing in Worlds.
I mean, it's just like hop on a train and you're there. Why
It's
wouldn't
so
you?
wild. Like, I've never gone between countries in Europe, but I have been to Europe enough times, and I'm just like, man, it's actually wild. Like, taking the Amtrak between states and imagining that that was like the same as like going to other countries is wild.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I travel farther to go to Gen Con than they travel to go to a lot of the like European major conventions, including Paris.
Yeah. Well, I guess, like, their train system is also probably, like, better and more efficient, right? Like, you don't explicitly have to fly, but for us, like, flights are still kind of pricey even within the continental.
Yep. All right. All right, freeloader's cooked here. You know why?
Why?
Because he used to give out stream blessings until he started cursing me. So now I also have the power to curse him. So he's cooked here.
Well, he has the power of Ishambushi, which has proven to be pretty good, and the way it lines up if the Frankenstein gets played versus the physical training is that it's still good for freeloader. So I think freeloader is just trying to figure out is that actually the line you want to go with? Which seems like the answer is probably yes. Um, but trying to factor in what that last card might be, or maybe just double checking some math. Honestly, like this is supposed to be an American timed, or I guess this time, whatever you want to call our time zone, in America's like time zone oriented event. But for
Yeah.
so many Europeans to be playing is like honestly pretty impressive. Some really messed up sleep schedules, and I know like Rune and Freeloader essentially don't sleep, but so,
Yeah. It is very much like 5 US players and then people from Brazil and other places in Europe. I think we don't even classically see all of the US players because we also work more than Europeans, especially work more than the French. So,
Yeah, I mean, I can't attest or deny that. I don't actually know how culture works in Europe there, but I do know. Yeah, I've definitely on my walk home from work have played in the AWOL.
there you go. All right, freeloader. This is the moment. The Isumboshi is not as strong now, though, besides
Oh
the
no, no,
support
it's
ability.
it's still good. Like at worst, you get into the arena with this Ishamboshi, so it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
are players that refuse to play online, which is very interesting to me. But I'm a gamer, so it just makes sense to play online.
yeah. I just think you just in general, like if you actually want to make it to Worlds, which not everyone does, like don't get me wrong, but if you do truly want to make it to Worlds, like my goal wasn't to make it to Worlds. My goal was if I make it to Worlds, I want to do well. So I don't want to just like get lucky and make it to Worlds and then like lose in the first round or like be in the bottom half. I want to have a chance at winning Worlds. So I have to play against people around the world all the time. Like I need to play against the best people. Oh, nice. So we got the Ishambushi plus a Klute combo.
Yeah.
So I know Freeloader has been trying this. I think it's a singleton a Klute specifically for this Trace matchup. So we'll see if it lines up well. The problem is there's still the Trace ability plus the Havens. But what's cool is that even if you put in an Axiom Salvager in and get the resupply off of that, there's this Chiron in the reserve, and that's going to allow you to trigger the Klute again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it is exactly what I said with the Isumboshi, though. It was used for the support ability, so it worked out. What's up, Batusai as well? I don't know. Did Wookie get a mag pen? Did you mail him one? I have not heard anything other than his basement was flooding for a little bit, but now it's
Jeez.
fine.
Okay, so that one's cool. You can destroy one of your havens to get a lot more stats out.
Yeah, I do like this. At the very end, sack one of your havens. A very, very cool Brems play that I saw a couple times this week. Then you can get the brass bug. And I
Mhm.
mean, even if you don't use it for that, you still have the Grems to get rid of, another permanent on the other side. Um, for Baltimore, hopefully someone hears something because I've been working with a guy trying, and I think some other people sent an email, and the partner company has not said anything. So I don't even know if there's gonna be a stream.
Yeah, yeah, they're keeping me in the loop, but I know that they threw my hat in the ring. So if there is something, I'm sure I'll be able to do something. But I am signed up for the event, so if I need to win a second Tiny Gen, I'll do it. Like it's fine.
Yeah,
Um,
they then you can sell one to fund your girlfriend's trip to Paris.
Yeah, it's actually unclear. I haven't really seen people selling digital or physical copies of the cards, so it's kind of unclear how much they're actually worth. But I didn't actually get the Tiny Gen. I only got the digital copy. We price split to have the second place person get the physical copy. So
Yeah, when I took Justin to the airport, we were talking about that, and he was saying how nice it was. Just nice guy Rinku.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know it could be really hard losing a final, so I just want to make it as easy even as possible. You know, obviously making a worlds is the dreams. But okay, so still trying to pressure this occlude, um, because he has to. But the mana eruption is probably gonna make it too much. So if you mana eruption the Grems, I'm pretty sure you just can't get enough stats to fight the occlude. This one also works. But the problem is this one doesn't do well against double one drop, if that existed. So if Symbiosis had double one drop here, they could potentially stave off the occlude. To be fair, there's not many things that would have a stat line that would be good on that side, on the occlude side. But I think you had to kill the Grems instead, because then I think there's no amount of cards that could be played that would have beat the occlude. That doesn't matter that much.
Man, Hooked though, Hooked such a good card. I have lost way too many games to sorry missed the GLHF. Freaking freeloader just ignoring people. But yeah, Hooked, very good. Also, if you gave the card to Nick and Chili, they did not give it to me, so you can go you could go yell at them. But what do we see here? Ooh, the Tracer.
Yep. Yeah, so the occlude really took this one down. Just being super huge in stats, and then being able to like hit two things in the reserve with a Haven in play. So pretty sweet to see there that the tech card that he wanted to yeah. I mean, feel bad. Our team keeps on trying to beat up on Symbiosis. Sorry in advance, but yeah, we're well. I still think Freeloader is better than Miyakojo, so glad to see him win there. But uh,
Oh gosh, let's check in and see what. Oh no, okay. So Rune did win out against Arthur. So as determined,
oh, is table three still good?
I have to refresh because I went into that one. Yeah, I think table three.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So 11 mana for the Kojo. So actually, despite the board looking like a huge advantage, there's still the mess. There's still the Haven. And really, if there is a hunger, which is not the most common to play in Kojo, but I've seen people play one or two, there's a hunger from hand that would actually just pretty much win the game for Pedro. Okay, yeah, and ends up getting there.
all right, Batusai. I messaged them and was like, "What the hell?" Good night, freeloader. Good job, Rune Folk. Also, I was gonna say I thought I recognized John in here earlier, but
Yeah, that is symbiosis.
I never know if when people haven't changed their YouTube name, if they want like their name called out. So if you are chatting and you don't want your full name to be in the chat, you can change your display name. But yeah, well played on all sides. Don't you know, Rune, that hostage is not tournament playable? Yeah, you could never play it in person either.
Right. So this one's effectively over. We we have Hypercave with literally no cards in hand and
Yep.
no cards in play. Um, but we'll still chill here. It's fun. Yeah,
Uh,
the hunger has done a lot for the game. It's it makes it so that way. Well, what I like about the hunger is against certain strategies or decks that are pretty much this engine building sort of thing, as opposed to fighting on the tumult. Before in Trial by Frost, there just wasn't that much interaction for it. Like if Sierra has two brass bug hives, you're kind of just dealing with it. So hunger allows that to, allows the tumult decks to be able to fight against the engine building decks in a different axis. Ironically, I actually don't like playing hunger myself. I rather just play a pile of mana eruptions and just try to like break through the front door. But
yeah.
you know, the hunger has really turned up a lot today. We saw the Akesha in round 1 against Traced, and then we also saw it here against Muna, and that's kind of 2 of their best matchups.
Yeah, hunger is definitely part of the reason that Muna is very hard to play right now. And I don't have super good anchor uniques, so that's
Mhm.
kind of why I mean, I also haven't really tried to grind lately, so I've just been playing a bunch of stuff, Arok, Nevenka, things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Lost in the Woods being the only other card, I think unfortunate. This is very easily winnable here from Kojo. One of the other things mentioned by Gus earlier was how the French were commenting that Siggy did not get anywhere in the top cut at Dallas. That's because the US players are just better than Siggy. And if we were over there in Lille and these other events, we would have beat all of those Siggys there as well.
Yeah, well, I don't know, like, I played against Chili round 2, who's playing Sigismar, and we ended up in the arena, I literally won by 1 stat point, so, like, there's alternate timelines where, like, Chili's going to Worlds even though he would have dropped and done coverage, but, yeah, definitely the yeah, it's tough, like, it's a different meta game, they're gonna people are gonna call out that it's a smaller tournament and all this stuff,
Mhm.
but it was still very competitive, and, like, I'm not just saying that because I won, like, people that were there know, and at the end of the day, there's different regions of different metas. Like I talked to Acraft before the event. I talked to some other French players and just anyone that was willing to talk to me. And it's clear that like the metas are just developed in very different ways. I will say that like some of the things that I saw at the event were a little bit less predictable. Like for instance, our top performing Lyra player was a Fen Festival player that actually beat me in round 5 when I thought I was dead for top 8. So um, yeah, so it's pretty cool stuff all around. Or actually, both of our top in factions were both festival decks, Muna Festival and Lyra
Mhm.
Festival. So it
Yeah.
was just a different event.
A moment of silence for Idyllic, who Rinku gave me a lot of shit leading up to it that I was championing Idyllic over Rinku. But now you know I'm true Muna. I had to,
Yeah,
and I did a lot of games like against Idyllic to help him train, so I kind of
it's
knew,
fine.
and I was just like, this deck is so good, but
No, you're good. I mean,
didn't
I
work.
still have the list of people that Cole likes more than me. It has like all the marbles, idyllic. Like it's fine because I know I'm still in the top 10, and that's all I need.
Of course. Yeah, Simon already champions you enough that I think it's okay if I back
We
idyllic a
gotta
little
spread
bit.
the love. Like AWOL can't just like have this, uniformity or anything like that.
Yeah, but as everyone knows, my favorite pro player is actually Erleia, so you're all nothing compared to
Wait,
her.
I thought it was El.
Elwiwi is my favorite Fen player,
Wait,
and
really? I thought El was your favorite player overall.
no comment, no comment.
Okay, well,
Symbiosis
hopefully
did
they're
change
not
their
listening to
name.
this cast. I mean,
No, I love Elwiwi as well. But Erleia plays Muna, played Loki in the top cut last. So
yeah.
we're here at the end of the tournament. I do think one of the things that I am vindicated in, and a couple of us that were calling it, is people would ask, "What should I expect in Dallas?" And I was like, "I literally cannot tell you because it's gonna be so weird. I can
Mhm.
only tell you what players to watch out for and, like, what they're maybe gonna play." And you were still, like, a mystery up till the day before. I think a lot of people will say, "Oh, no, we always knew he was gonna play Kojo." But, like, you weren't expressly decided until I don't know how long before.
Yeah, so my general approach involves some amount of like I have two sides to me. I have like the hyper competitive just do the best thing side, and I have this like creative like what if everyone's wrong the whole time? I gotta explore this other stuff. So I spent time with Lindaway, spent time with Nevenka and Basira, and like I have to do all that because if I don't, like, A, sometimes doing the other things help me. Like, I say that one way I learned how to play Kojo really well was by playing a lot of Lyra. So I understand how to operate the tumult easier with these holes in your stats. But the other thing is that if I just go and only play Kojo because I'm a Kojo guy, and then like if I felt like I left a rock unturned, I would actually have doubt throughout the tournament if I lost. If I tried everything, gave it a fair shot, and determined it is right to not play that, then I take the losses a lot better. So I actually practice usually by not playing the deck I'm known for. And it's just something I have to do to almost like satisfy both sides of me, my creative side and my competitive side. So it's just like a quirk that I have that's obviously not efficient, but allows for like ideas to flow a lot easier.
I mean, it it worked, and you took down an event. There was an Arjun in Dallas,
Mhm.
Infinite's wife. I'm gonna call her that because I know her real name, and like I said, I don't like saying people's real names on big things that are gonna live forever if they don't expressly want to.
But your name's not first name Cole, last name Robbie.
It actually is. But yeah, she was playing Arjun. Didn't quite work out, but I talked to her a little bit after, and I think she said she's gonna try to switch over back to Tasia, and I
Hmm.
forgot what the second one is, but it was very, very great having you on cast.
Do you want to
Well,
read off the X ones and XO?
nah, they don't matter.
Okay.
I I won't admit that I went to my turn based games. Oh, it did actually finish. So, unfortunately, in first place is Revert Afanis with a 6-0 on Akesha. And then going down from there for your 5-1s are Padrinho, Arthur, SBTFU, Histe, Wreck the Kitty Boo, Isali, and then in seventh place, got a shout out, El Wee Wee.
His second
Um,
favorite player.
yeah. Why am I saying Gus the Bus? I don't see your name anywhere in here. Was that a 0-2 drop?
No, no, no. He's saying that he doesn't mind if you call him his real name.
Oh, his name's not Gus though.
Wait, his real life name?
Yeah, his real life name is not Gus.
Oh, for some reason I thought it was Gus.
No, I am 90% positive it is
Yeah,
not.
I'll ask him the next time I see him at locals. It's fine.
Yeah. Wait, do you call him Gus at locals?
Uh, by locals, I mean I went to a pre-release and I went to Tumult, both of which I went undefeated at. But uh, that's it. But I'm pretty sure his name is Gus. Like I've talked to his fiance before.
Oh man, this whole time I thought he was just pulling a switcheroo on us, and I thought his name that he used to use was his real name, and then he
So
switched over to
it would
Gus
have
the
been
Bus.
better if his name was actually Bus, and then like this is like the long con.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Arthur, it was Rune Folk, so you can give him a bunch of crap. But thank you, Rinku, for joining me tonight. It was very insightful. I'm sure the audience got a lot out of it. Is there
Yeah.
anything you want to say before we head? I'm going to bed. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would say is that if you're looking to improve in this game, the game's theory and development is very much in its infancy. So there's just so much to learn from so many people. So by playing in more tournaments with some amount of stakes, these free events are fantastic. So I feel like a lot of what allowed me to get to Worlds is AWOL existing, ACE existing, the AQZ events. Like if these events didn't exist, I really feel like it would have hampered my development as a player. So even if your friends only want to play paper, if they want to qualify for Worlds, not playing Board Game Arena means that they don't truly want to qualify for Worlds in my eyes. So please utilize like this tool, even if it's just to watch replays. You don't have to play, but there's just such a wealth of information. But there's a lack of unification on theory, and there's a lot of time you can spend learning from other people in this. So it's something we're all doing together as we're all learning the games, but where some people are gaining edges over others isn't strictly by just having better uniques than people. It's that people just aren't thinking about things that other people are thinking about. So that's kind of my 2 cents if you want to be a very competitive player in this game.
Yep. Very, very well said. I think if you only play on paper, especially in the United States, you might have a very hard time and you'll
Mhm.
probably fall behind the meta very quickly. He's probably not watching and won't watch, so I can say Nick from Hero's Guide to Asgartha is very funny to listen to because he'll talk about decks that people solved like 4 months ago. And he's like, I have this amazing deck. And I'm just listening to the podcast laughing. And I heard he was making fun of me on the way over to Common Ground. So now I got him back with that one. But
Well, that seems like a great way to end.
yeah, Saturday. Come Saturday and Sunday, watch the EU qualifier.
I
If
will. Thanks.
you can't watch the whole thing, throw it up on a TV somewhere, let your dogs watch it, and let's make it the biggest altered stream ever. We have to beat the French. So,
Yeah,
all right.
we got this.
All right. Thank you everyone, and we will see you on the weekend.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for watching.